Welcome back to the Football Terrace. It's Straight Facts on Monday morning. Hit the like and the share button, please. I'm joined by Judge Mo and Potts. Hassan was going to be here. He's blamed it on his electric not working. I personally think he's crying because Trent has confirmed he's leaving. I think he's in tears. Nothing to do with the electric, in my personal opinion. But I'm sure it'll be working when he needs to stream later, but he's hiding today. But I'm joined by Judge Mo and Potsy. How are you, gents?
Yeah, good, man. Really good. Other than the football, I'm good, bro.
Sure.
You're bro. Oh, okay, we're gonna get into it in the show, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking because I saw you. You prat. You prat.
Yeah. Well, if I wasn't an impatient prat, I might be all right. That's what I will say. So yeah, I'm all good though, man. I'm calm now.
Yeah, listen, I get it. We'll talk about it on the show. Because as soon as I saw the tweet, I was like, that's Potsy, because I watched your video. It just rung a bell straight away. I was like, that's Potsy. We'll be talking about that. We're going to be speaking about Arsenal's must-win week in the Champions League. There's some interesting transfer stories as well. One that's just broke about Gittens to Arsenal. Many thinking that may be actually a better deal than them going for Nico Williams. We're going to be looking back at yesterday's game. Are Liverpool fans really not bothered that they lost? Big win for Chelsea. Top four race, or top five really debate race coming up. Plus, we're starting though on a big story, and that is the Europa League a disgrace. Is the Europa League not fit for purpose? This is the view of a number of media outlets, a number of pundits, a number of rivals, as they are disgusted, all of a sudden, that Manchester United or Tottenham could be playing Champions League football next season. This is what was said yesterday on beIN Sport. Let's take a little listen.
Has it been a good Premier League season? Has the league itself been as competitive this year as in previous seasons?
I would say no. You had Man City not completely at the same level. Liverpool was very early in front and dominated the league from. And at the moment, Arsenal dropped at the moment we wouldn't expect them to drop. So overall, I believe as well the weaker teams were never as weak. I've never seen a team with 11 points at the end of the season. So it looks like the gulf between the top 8, 9 and really the bottom team is absolutely getting bigger every year. And what is a bit worrying is that you see the same teams going down and the same teams coming up. Yeah. That is a little bit the vicious circle of a parachute payment that allows this team to keep their players and to be stronger than the teams who fight desperately to come up. There's something to think about, how you can improve the competition. And I would say as well, with more teams now qualifying for the European Games, the gulf inside the league will become even bigger.
Is that good, Arsene, more teams from the one league going into Europe?
I don't believe so, because it will make the difference between top teams in England and the rest of Europe even bigger. Yeah. Because you would say, I think only a few teams now can compete with the Premier League teams in the Champions League. It can be Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and then financially already at the end, basically.
Is it right that we are about to watch a Europa League final between two English clubs? One's 15th,
14th and 15th.
14th and 15th. The prize will be a place in the Champions League. Is that right?
No.
It's not.
Well, it is right if you make the decision that it is right.
Well, yes,
you know,
but the reward seems far too great for...
Obviously, talking about the quality of the Premier League there as an example. But then at the end, saying that it's wrong that the winners of this year's Europa League should get a place in the Champions League. This conversation hadn't really sort of... the conversation hadn't happened until after the first leg semi-finals. Not once this season had anybody complained What's your opinions on it? Do you think that UEFA should take the Champions League spot away from either Tottenham or United if they win the Europa League this season?
Do you believe your team is ready for Champions League? Do you believe your team is worthy of Champions League? I think if you ask yourself this, I think you will know the answer. The thing about it, that I know that the conversations happen because it's Tottenham and Man United might be playing the final, which is rightfully so, right? Because Europa League normally are stronger than this. There are teams that drop in from the Champions League. I get why people are a little bit triggered with this Man United versus Spurs, because when they look at the Premier League table and they look at the season, I disagree that the season has been weak, because I think the season has been strong. It is proven by the Fulhams, the Brentford, the Bournemouth, and all the other teams, the Villas and these teams. But if you look at the Europa League and the two teams that might be playing the final, we want to see, like, as neutrals and as everyone that is in this sport, they want to see the strongest teams play the strongest competition in the world in terms of club football, which is the Champions League. Ask yourself one thing. Is Man United and Spurs worthy of a Champions League based on their league form or how they perform? The answer is clearly no. But is it their right that they are focusing on that competition to win it, to make a Champions League spot, and they're ignoring the league? It is their right. The rules are the rules. But I see their points, to be honest with you, because you can't tell me that the teams that are 14th and 15th in the Premier League are going to be challenging the team in first, second, third, fourth, fifth. The team is first in Germany, second, Barcelona, Real Madrid. The reality is your team is not worthy of Champions League.
Okay.
Have they earned the right? The last point.
Okay, go on.
They earned the right based on the laws, right? But it's the same as when you say the handball rule in Europe is unjust, for example. It needs to be changed, but it is the team's right. Like last season, Newcastle got eliminated by an unjust penalty versus PSG. However, the law is the law. So the rules allow your team to play, but is your team worthy of Champions League? I don't think so.
Okay, so just to answer that question, are United ready for the Champions League? To win it, no. But based on, this is why your logic is flawed. When Manchester City first qualified for the Champions League a decade ago, were they ready to win it? No, they couldn't get out of the group stage for 3 or 4 years. Your logic also dictates that, do we really think if Aston Villa finished 5th, they're ready to win the Champions League? The answer is no. But nobody's claiming they shouldn't be there. When teams like City were on the up and up 10 years ago and qualified for the Champions League, nobody made the argument they shouldn't be there because they can't win it. When at the same time, when you get Champions League teams like Malmo, they have no chance of winning it. Sheriff have no chance of winning it. PSV, that Arsenal knocked out in the knockout stages, did any of us think at the beginning of the season they had a chance to win it? There is an argument to say the team that wins the Europa League shouldn't get it. But the idea that Man United suddenly shouldn't because we're not ready to win it, it's flawed. Because if we're honest, at the beginning of every season, we only think that 3 or 4 teams are capable of winning it anyway. Your logic dictates that the Champions League should have 4 or 5 teams in it only at the beginning of a season. Why does that?
I never said win it. I never said win it. I said participate in it.
But of course we can participate in it. Of course. And do you know how I know we can participate in it? It's why the logic's also flawed. Man United have knocked out 2 teams this Europa League season who are going to qualify for the Champions League based on finishing in the top 4 in their own country. So if we've already knocked out in the knockout stages teams that are going to qualify for next season's Champions League, that is cast iron proof that we're ready to play in it and we will beat some teams. We're not ready to win it. No one's arguing that. So again, we've knocked out teams that will automatically qualify for the Champions League next year by finishing 2nd, 3rd and 4th in their respective leagues. Spurs have done similarly themselves. So again, both your arguments hold no water.
But in your league, okay, you're talking about Sheriff. They can't help it that they play in their league. They can't help it that some other team play in La Liga. You are not more deserved than a team like Aston Villa or Bournemouth to make the top competition in Europe. You're not worthy. No, you're not. You're not. You're not. How? They beat you. They are better than you in your league. It's go play. Okay, listen. Man United can go play in the Swedish league and they can win it, and literally they can qualify.
Let me answer your point. If Man United or Spurs, and by the way, neither of us are in the final yet, but let's say we make it to the final, we would be the only team in England, barring Liverpool, to qualify for the Champions League via winning a trophy, being a champion of a competition. Secondly, I want to tell you a little something here. I did about 10 minutes research on this today. Plus, I use a little bit of Chat GTP for the next bit I'm going to tell you all and blow you out the water with. So, Richard Keys and Andy Gray, both in 2017, 2019, and in 2022, both on their BN Sports show stated that allowing teams that drop down from the Champions League to play in the Europa League was not maintaining high standards for UEFA and was giving a second chance to teams that had failed. You can do your own research on this, gents, but all the way back as far as 2016, I looked, and 2017, I looked for 2017 because United won it that year, up until 2023. Numerous articles, numerous pros, numerous managers like Jose Mourinho here, and I will quote, who said, it's a disgrace that teams can fail in the group stage of the Champions League and still have a chance at European glory. This was met by huge support, not just by football fans, but by UEFA as well. So we went for a period for 7 or 8 years where the same people now moaning were claiming it was wrong, like when teams like Man United, when teams like Barcelona fouled in the Champions League and then had a chance to win the Europa. That was looked at as a disgrace. The next element is this. When Chelsea won the Europa League in 2019 to qualify for the Champions League, the only team they played who dropped down from the Champions League was Malmo. Every other team they beat was already in the group. It was already in the Europa League. Man United, when we won it in 2017 and qualified for the Champions League, the only Champions League team we played that dropped down was the fucking might of Rostov. When Atalanta won it last year, they didn't beat or play a single team who dropped down, and nobody had a problem with them being in the Champions League. So yes, no Champions League sides have dropped down this year, but there have been numerous examples of teams winning it and getting into the Champions League where, one, they haven't played a European powerhouse who has dropped down from the Champions League, and nobody cared a iota. We are now hearing narratives for the first time in the history of football. Yeah, if you're not ready to win it, you shouldn't be in it. Actually, if you're not more deserving than the team that's come 4th or 5th. By the way, these are the same people for years that said 4th and 5th shouldn't even get a place in the Champions League. Man United have knocked out teams who are going to automatically qualify for the tournament next year via their league standings. At the end of the day, Man United and Spurs have defied the odds in the Europa League because we're also moving the goalposts. Every knockout round, United were predicted by nearly every single rival of the club to be knocked out, battered. Frankfurt, by the way, who were going to qualify for the Champions League, are going to smash up Tottenham and knock them out. We beat those teams with quality. We beat those teams fair and square. Now, the goalposts are being shifted again to shit upon Man United and to shit upon Tottenham. And it is purely and simply sour grapes. That's all. You can make your arguments all you want, but my question is this: where was the outrage in the summer when they announced nobody would drop down? There wasn't any. Go read the articles. Everybody praised it because what got called out for a decade was fouling teams in the Champions League having the second chance of success. Remember the playoffs when Man United played Barca and everyone's like, that ain't fair. How's that fair? They've got to play a Champions League team when they weren't in it. Everyone said that. It's wrong. Now it's okay. No one moaned about it for a decade. No one cared when Atalanta didn't play a drop-down team last year. No one cared when United won it in 2017. No one cared when Chelsea won it in 2019. It's simply because of this. The Premier League season has been boring as fuck, and there is nothing to talk about. So they're creating a narrative out of nowhere because Man United are the biggest club in England. We're one of the most famous clubs in the world, and they need their clicks. They need their attention. Because if we went out to Bilbao, you wouldn't hear any of these conversations happening. Not from Wenger, European failure Wenger. You wouldn't be hearing it from beIN Sport, Sky Sports, your mum's sport, your dad's sport. No one. Bitter.
Because Bilbao is 4th, not 15th in their league.
Okay, but
they're more worthy than you of making Champions League. They're more worthy than you of making Champions League.
Okay, hang on, Mo.
They're more worthy than you. Anybody can beat anybody.
Mo, let me speak, please.
You spoke a lot.
Bodo, no, because hang on, wait, Bodo Glimt. I want you to respond to everything I've said, not just the last bit.
But I can't respond to like 50 points.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
But if Bodo Glimt make it to that final, nobody is gonna say shit. They're in the Norwegian league. They're not ready for the Champions League. They're not ready for it. The point is this: it is sour grapes, and you are all bitter as fuck.
Not really. Bodo Glimt are not worthy. No, Bodo Glimt are not worthy of a Champions League spot. They're 11th in their league as well. See, I have the same energy.
But you're ignoring the
out right away.
No, I am going to interject because you're ignoring the point. It's not about whether you think they're worthy or not. The conversation wouldn't be happening, yes or no. Would they be Would Wenger be talking about it? No, that is the point. If Bodo Glimt were playing Bilbao in the final, would be in sport have spoken about it, yes or no?
Might not, but you're asking Judge Mo. You're not asking Arsene Wenger. You can get Arsene Wenger on the show and you can question him. Are you going to talk about it or not? You're asking Judge Mo on the channel.
You're getting cooked, bro. You're cooked. Bitter. You bitter swines.
Sorry, KJ. You're asking Mo, and then he's saying, would Arsene Wenger? I don't give a fuck about Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger chat shit all the time about the Premier League. I don't care. You're asking Judge Mo. I don't think...
but this is what I'm going to interject again. No. It matters what Arsene Wenger's saying, and it matters what BN Sport are saying, because if they didn't start the conversation, none of this would be happening, would it?
Bro, we spoke about it. Me and you spoke.
The media started this conversation. The media started this conversation, and now everybody's talking about it. So of course it matters why they're talking about it.
But me and you spoke about it before when we said the 15th and do you remember that we said the 15th and the 14th?
That was last week. That was last week after the media started talking about it.
So the media was talking about it today. You brought up Arsene Wenger. Wasn't that a couple of days ago or yesterday?
That was a clip. But the media has been talking about it now since last week. And yes, we spoke about it. The media brought it up, so now we're talking about it. So, of course, your opinion on why do you think it's come up now matters. The point Man United fans are making is you can think we're worthy or not. No one cares. Why is the conversation happening now?
Because you're 15th in the league, Terry. I think you're misunderstanding this.
No, you're not answering the question. Why, when other teams were mid-table and winning, because Sevilla won it when they were like 12th, 13th in the league, why didn't the media talk about it? That's the question we're asking. We're not going to deflect. We're asking that question. Why was it not spoken about then?
I don't know if they were spoken about it or not. You're saying that.
But why was it not? We know it wasn't. Why was it not spoken about?
That's I thought it was.
That's the debate.
I don't know. It was. But for me to have a 15th and a 16th in the league at the current moment, Spurs and Man United play the final Europa League, it shows how weak it shows how weak the Europa League is or how strong the Premier League is. You cannot have it both ways. You said that the Premier League is weak. You cannot have it both ways. It's either
I didn't say the Premier League was weak. I didn't say the Premier League was weak. I said the Premier League was boring. Don't change my words.
Do you think the Premier League is strong or not? Did you say a simple answer so I can continue my argument?
Frame strong for me.
Is it a strong competition? Is the teams from 10th, 15th, 17th are stronger than other teams in Europe, like 3rd in France, 4th in France, 4th in Italy? If that is the case, they are strong.
Okay, so you framed it. It's strong compared to Europe. This season, yes. We have probably... No, this season, yes. We're going to have a team in the Conference League final, most likely. We're probably going to have 2 teams in the Europa League final, and Arsenal were in the semi-final. So... To the direct question you've asked, are we strong compared to Europe this year? Our performance in Europe, our coalition points proves yes. I've never said that isn't the case, not once. I've also never said that Liverpool are bad champions. The question we're asking, and I don't want to move the framing of it, is why is this conversation happening now when it's never been discussed before? When teams that have been mid-table and have won Europa Leagues, when teams haven't played sides that drop down, why now the conversation? We know the answer, but you don't want to admit it.
No, it's not because of Man United and Spurs are being horrific in the league and they're reaching the Europa League final. So it's either a testament of how strong the Premier League teams are in compared to the rest of Europe, or it's a testament to how bad the competition has been. There's no other ways around it.
No, there is. It's called cup. What is that? It's just, why can't it just be if that just happens in the cup? Why does it have to be this overarching, well, that means Europe is weak, or that means this league is weak or strong? Because no one's saying about Bodo Glimt and Norway. Are we now saying, oh, that just shows how strong Norway are because Bodo Glimt in the final? No. In the semi-finals? No. Because that just, in the cup, things happen. When Wigan won the FA Cup and got relegated, they was in the Europa League, while in the Championship. Are we all saying that's wrong?
Might be wrong, yes.
Is
Why not?
it
No,
wrong?
those
No, it's
debate-
not.
The point is, sorry, KJ, is that
And what,
no
what did
one-
Wigan do in the Europa League then?
irrelevant. No, this isn't what we're talking about. The Man United fans are not annoyed that people think we may or may not win the Champions League. What we are asking is when Wigan got into Europe but got relegated, nobody said it's a disgrace. Actually, we've got to reassess who can and can't qualify if they win the FA Cup based on their league position. This was never discussed. This was never spoken about at any point. Why now?
But it is something that has to be discussed. So, with all due respect, if a championship team,
But
if
you're
a
not answering why don't you answer my question? Why?
I don't
now?
know why. I don't know why. I'm answering now.
That's what we're here to discuss. We're discussing why.
You want to.
You've got to delve into why, Mo.
You want to, Terry. You want to be convinced that they're talking about it because it's Man United. What about Spurs? Spurs are not the biggest team in England. They're talking about you're talking about, okay, you coming from an angle of that Man United is the biggest team in Europe. Man United is the biggest team in England. This is why they're speaking about it. I promise you the same discussion will happen even if Man United miraculously lose to Bilbao and Spurs at the end finishing 17th in the league and making Champions League. We will be having the same conversation. Are Spurs worthy of a Champions League spot after a horrific form? You are a Man United fan, so you're coming from an angle, it's against my club, the world is against Man United, we are the biggest team, blah, 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 they want to get their clicks. But I promise you, they will talk about it as well. But you won't talk about that. It's not about Man United only.
Terry's been mentioning Spurs. He's been saying United and Spurs. It's about United and Spurs.
But Terry's point is that because they want to get their clicks, and this is why they're mentioning it. But I'm talking about from a completely football point. Forget the clicks, forget the headlines, Man United fan base. Spurs at the current moment, if they reach the final and make Champions League, are they worthy? I don't think so.
Yes, they are worthy.
I don't think so.
They are worthy.
No, listen to this. The reason why they're worthy is because UEFA has deemed them worthy to be in it. Okay? You can, until they change the rule of you can not go into the the Champions League by winning the Europa League. Until that happens, anyone who wins the Europa League and gets into the Champions League is worthy because UEFA deem it so. It's one of those rules where it is what it is. If they changed it tomorrow and it was the other way around, I'm not arguing saying it's unfair.
Okay, hold on, Terry.
And the problem with that, just to add to that, because I think it's going to add to it, Mo. The problem with the logic of we have to see whether a team's worthy, if they worthy of the prize of winning that trophy, it's a slippery slope for me personally. Because if you start doing that, if everybody thinks, oh, okay, yeah, you've won the Premier League this year, Leicester, but the standard was so low, it was the worst Premier League season ever because all the best teams are crap. Do you take that Champions League spot away based on the logic? Again, your logic has to dictate this. If Crystal Palace win the FA Cup this year, City have been the worst City team we've seen in a decade. Arsenal, the second best team in England this season, went out to a shit Man United team that you're saying doesn't deserve European football. You're saying that Plymouth knocked out the current champions of England. So if Crystal Palace, who are mid-table, win the FA Cup, the logic dictates that they shouldn't be given the ultimate prize of Europa League football because the overall standard in that competition this year was really low.
No, but that is the competition. Okay.
Number one, is the Europa League. That's the competition.
No. But the competition of Europa League has been weak, and the two teams that might reach the final are 4th, 15th, and 16th in the league. My point about this, has not. Okay, when Leicester won just to answer your Leicester thing, when Leicester won the league, they won the league against the teams that are in the league. They didn't win it against Lazio and Salernitana and Sevilla. They won it against the teams in the Premier League.
But this is the problem, though. When it comes to Lazio, they were the favourites in everybody's mind. They were going to batter Spurs and Man United. Bilbao were going to batter Man United midweek. Lyon were going to kill us. Nearly did. No way United knocking out Real Sociedad. Frankfurt were going to kill Tottenham. So we weren't even deemed in the top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 favourites to win it. Now, standard's really low. But you didn't answer my point. The standard, based on your logic in the FA Cup this season, is low. City, worst team in 10 years. Relegated championship team Plymouth knocked out champions of England Liverpool. They rotated. Arsenal got knocked out by the same shit team Man United you say don't deserve European football. Spurs, I don't remember what they did in the FA Cup, if I'm being honest with you, but they didn't do anything. So if Palace win it, are we going to have the conversation? But because the FA Cup was weak this year and a team that is bottom half of the table is winning it, surely that logic dictates they don't deserve a place in Europe either.
Maybe, yes, absolutely, yes. See the difference between me and you? When I said that the handball, and you talk about this, the handball law has to change, I agree with KJ sometimes when he says that, listen, as long as the law allows it, it's your right, correct? But we're here to discuss if that law is correct, if that rule needs to be changed.
Okay.
The new evidence means that the law... That is KJ's point, and I agree with him.
So
You know
that's
what?
fine. And that's fine. But then that's my point. Why I think it's flawed is that means what we have got to do is subjectively assess every season the quality of each competition to determine whether the team that wins in the end actually deserves the prize. Do you know how convoluted and difficult that is?
No. I never said that. I never said that. When Leicester won the league at the end, they won against the other 19 teams in the league. When Bayer Leverkusen won the league, they won against the other 17 teams in the Bundesliga. When Man United win Europa League, they didn't win it against Bournemouth or Fulham, who are higher than them on the table, and they are more worthy of a place in the top competition than Man United.
But they weren't last.
Same for the FA Cup, by the way.
The logic you're missing is this, though. What Man United do in the Europa League this year, what Arsenal do in the Champions League this year, what Tottenham do in the Europa League this year is based on your previous season's achievements. So we deserve to be there based on what we did last season. The same as if Nottingham Forest this year, come fourth and qualify for the Champions League and somehow miraculously get to a Champions League final and win it, even if they're 15th in the Premier League next year, doesn't mean they're not worthy of being in the Champions League, because it's based on what they did this season. We are suddenly, and this is why I'm angry about this conversation, because we are undoing the way football has worked for decades simply to try and shit on Tottenham and Manchester United. Because one of them is very likely to win the Europa League and it's hurting people. We have never had these conversations before, and I promise you this, you won't see them happening again unless it's teams the size of Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal in that predicament. That's all you're going to see.
And they never spoke about the offside rule until they thought, like, we need to make an offside rule here because forwards are staying next to the goal. It's okay. It's okay. We can. I think Man United. Can I say one thing? I think Man United Spurs might make UEFA rethink that Europa League to Champions League spot. And if that happens, we will be. I think it needs to be revisited. To be honest with you.
But listen to what you said. Because of Man United and Spurs, not because actually. When we analyze football, like with the offside rule, it wasn't because one team was or two teams were exposing that offside rule and then they decided to change it. No, everyone at that time was exposing that rule, right? So they changed it because the entirety of football had a problem. Just because two teams who are deemed not good enough win a trophy, that should not dictate that an entire governing body should change the entire rules for the entirety of European football.
Maybe that's the start of it. Maybe that's the start.
Mo, right at the end, your final line, Mo, before we go to Potsy, he's been very, very patiently waiting. Your final line, you just, after 28 minutes, you admitted what we all knew in the beginning. You said because of Man United and Tottenham. And that's all this is about. It's because of Man United and Tottenham. You literally, in the end,
said that in the beginning, Terry.
In the end, you said that. Potsy, do you think that UEFA should take Man United or Tottenham's Champions League place away next season?
Look, it's been 29 minutes. An impatient Pratt. An impatient Pratt probably would have come in by now. Hold that, Goldbridge. No, look, Arsene Wenger, big up, man. Take a bow. 7 years you were in the Premier League. You're still rattling people, even though you're out of it. This is totally and utterly rattled. He knows what he's doing. I think Richard Keys and Andy Gray are very clever as well with how they've just planted that message for him. Should we just shit on some Man United and Spurs fan, Arsene? I'll give you this nice little question for you to do so. Giving him a way in which they knew how he was going to answer it. Look, I think we're kind of missing it a bit here. And I understand why Man United and Spurs fans will get a little bit peeved. I think the question needs to be, should this rule remain? And I think what we're doing is we're looking past and going, well, it was all right 5 years ago. It was all right 10 years ago. yeah, to be fair, I think Europe is trash, and I've said that for a while. I think, if I'm honest, the last 4 that are in the Champions League, the games that we're seeing have been quite good quality, to be honest. So perhaps you can say that it's still got an ounce of quality in it. I think the Premier League, I agree with Arsene Wenger. I think when someone's finishing on 11 points and the same 3 teams are going down and up for a while now, you've got to look at the quality of the league. But me, Mo, and Sam have been arguing that for a while. They think it's quality. I don't think it's quality. I don't think it's shocking, but I certainly don't think it's anywhere near the level of what it used to be. And I think Europe's like that as well. So I think the question needs to be now, should Man United and Spurs deserve, if they win this final, because it could be Bodo Glimt or Atletico, you never know. Yeah. But whoever wins it, should they be allowed to go into the Champions League? The answer is yes. And the answer is yes, because that's what the rules state. So really the question should be, should the rule need changing? Which is the back end of what Mo was just literally saying then now. So I think that is a serious question now. Now, I've never really looked at the Europa League teams and the Europa Conference League teams, without being too disrespectful, and gone, oh, wow, the quality in these competitions is just top level. All of them could compete in the Champions League. Now, they could all go into the Champions League. They wouldn't get in the new anywhere near the new format. You might get 1 team or 2 teams that sneak through. So we're looking at the quality. Now, where people are losing their heads, I think, is the rival fans are going, oh, my God, Man United or Spurs are going to end up in that Champions League. I'm more pissed off that they're going to win a trophy. I don't really care that they qualify for the Champions League for it. I'd just be more peeved that they're actually going to do that. And my team might not, unless we win the Champions League, of course. So that's what's got my goat, is the fact that they could be lifted a European trophy before Arsenal could do again, right? Unless you're Spurs, of course, who haven't done it for ages either. When I look at it, I don't know that they would at the moment, and you've got summer windows to come into it, and maybe new managers as far as Tottenham are concerned. I think when you look at it, I think Tottenham and Manchester United this season would have struggled in the Champions League format, personally, from what we're seeing with our own eyes. And I appreciate that Man United have done some good things in the Europa League with the teams that they have beaten in that league stage. Doesn't matter who you get. Tottenham have literally gone right the way through to the final. We ain't really playing anybody, if I'm honest with you. And Frankfurt were a good side, but Marmoush, their best player's gone. It's like playing Liverpool with or without Salah, really. Do you know what I mean? So when you look at it, you think, wow, Tottenham, fair play, they deserve to get there because you can only beat in front of you. But is that the route you get now to get to the final? That's pretty simple, to be fair. And I'm not saying boo-hoo when Arsenal did it, because Arsenal should have won the Europa League. We played our kids in the majority of it. I don't know why we did that, because we ended up losing to Amorim's Sporting Lisbon, and we lost to Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, and we lost to Villarreal under Emery. So we had a hell of a lot of a harder kind of route to try and get to that final. Should have won it, though, because we were, in my opinion, better back then. So I think the question now is, does this remain, this rule? I don't really know that it should. However, there needs to be some form of you've won it, so now this happens. And if it is, you go and qualify for the group stages or the playoffs to get into the Champions League, then so be it. Maybe that's what they do. You qualify to have a playoff round to get into the Champions League next year, if they still do them. I don't even know if they do them anymore. No. So that's where I'm kind of at. And I think we're looking at it completely different. And just lastly, the quality of the Premier League thing, I thought Arsene Wenger was spot on there. I've got to be honest. And I don't think that he is, he's only saying that because when he did it, it makes him look better when he was managing. All that crap will come out. I just think it's clear. I think everything.
Can I ask Dan a question before we go on and continue? I just want a straight answer from Dan, please. Watching Spurs and Man United this season, do you think they're worthy of a spot in the Champions League next season, regardless of Europa League?
No. However, if the rules state that they win the Europa League, then yeah, they are, because that's the rules.
Fantastic. The rules are the rules. I can't argue the rules. I can't argue the rules, Dan. I can't argue the rules. The rules of the handball. I can't argue the rules.
Look at the eye test. No, of course not.
Half the teams in the Champions League don't deserve to be there.
Yeah, can I just understand something?
And that's a good point.
What do you mean by worthy, Mo? Like what? Who do you like? Literally right now, can you name me the 10 who are worthy of Champions League football and why? What makes you worthy?
No. In the league.
No. Specificity. What makes a team worthy to be in the Champions League, in your opinion?
Performing very well in your league. Performing well to get a higher place.
That's vague.
I literally answered, but the answer you don't like, so you're not going to take my answer for it.
No, it's not that I don't like the answer. That's vague. What do you mean by being worthy? Detail it for me. The teams that perform well against their competition in their league to get higher positions to go in the best competition in Europe. Okay, so when you say perform well, does that equate to positions in the league?
Position and points, yes. Position, points, stuff like that.
So you're comfortable with top four, like, so where's and again, I'm not even trying to challenge you. I'm looking for specificity. Where's your cutoff point? Because the reason I say that is some people think it's a disgrace that a team that can finish 5th and be 45 points off the top of the league champions, they think that would you consider being 45 points off of the winners of the league and maybe on average 30 to 40 points off of all the champions going into next season's Champions League? Would you consider that worthy? Or where's the cutoff point?
It depends on the number of teams. If Champions League decide tomorrow that there are 70 teams in the Champions League and we're gonna take 8 from Italy, 8 from Spain, 7 from France, or whatever, that is the cutoff point. I don't have a cutoff point for it. When you perform against other teams and your position is right there, it is relevant to how strong the league is and how strong the teams around you are. That's it.
So there's
no. I have no cut on.
So
at some point, if there is I can answer your question very simple. If at some point the Champions League is 128 teams and they take 10 Premier League teams, that is the cutoff point. You have to be 10.
So you do have a cutoff point. But the reason I ask, you say you got no cutoff point. So would you say the team that are, say, 8th in Portugal, do you think they're better than Man United and Spurs?
No, they might not be.
So you must have a cutoff point then, because if the team 8th place in well, we've beaten. This is the thing. We have knocked teams out and been better this season than teams that are 2nd and 3rd in their respective leagues. That's why I'm asking you what your cutoff point of worthy is, because for me, your logic dictates, because we've beaten teams that are going to finish 3rd in some of the big leagues in Europe, and we perform well against them. Your logic dictates you have to have it. There are teams that are in the top 4 in Germany, teams that are in the top 4 or 5 in France that you also think are not worthy for the Champions League.
No, but they can do that because they need to involve all the teams in Europe based on how strong your league is. So you go to the qualification and then you go to the group stage.
But they're still not. But based on the eye and how good they are, they're not worthy.
No, they are worthy because in Europe you need to involve all the teams. Otherwise, we go to the Super League.
Okay.
No, but Mo, what you're doing, like, and I agree with what you're saying on the eye that Man United and Spurs don't look like, wow, they get them in the Champions League. Look at them, their quality. But then there's other clubs that we can do as well with that.
From England then, do you think Aston Villa is more worthy of a Champions League? In England, we're not going to talk about France because they need to involve all Europe because it's called Europe. It's called Champions League. Do you think Aston Villa is worthy of a Champions League spot or Man United?
The way that they're both playing, Aston Villa look like they do better in the Champions League.
But Aston Villa might not make the Champions League, and Man United might make the Champions League.
But that's the rule thing again, Mo. That's the rule thing
again. I agree with you, Dan. The rule might need to be. You need to look at this rule, and maybe you need to find a way to do it. Maybe you need to, same as the offside. They changed the handball. They changed a lot of the things.
I'm going to go to the super chats here because the audience have had a lot to say on this. Aya here says we are falling for the media narrative that trick us into engagement, because this Europa League thing is contradicting the very same question everyone has been asking with regards to incentives to be part of the Europa League in the first place. And this is what's also very true, and it's been ignored. So when the worthy question comes up, what gets my goat is for 15 years, football fans from across the world complained that teams didn't try hard enough to win the Europa League because there wasn't an incentive. The majority of football fans asked for this rule to be in place. Now that a team that they don't want to win it for numerous reasons, or one of 2 teams they don't want to win it for numerous reasons, now we've got to look at changing it again. I almost guarantee if next year a La Liga team is 15th in the league and they're winning it, I guarantee you Mo doesn't bring it up and Mo won't be talking about their worthiness. And you can't, in terms of being worthy,
you can't guarantee anything. Like I might be talking about it, but because I did, you can't guarantee.
But you can't, again, at the end of the day, being worthy is this. There's a competition to win and there's a prize at the end of it. If you win that competition, you qualify. Man United last year finished, this is why it's weird as well. Man United finished in the league 8th last year, won the FA Cup. Nobody said we weren't worthy of being in the Europa League, even though we didn't finish in an Europa League qualification position and were poor. I tell you 100%, if Spurs win the Europa League, no media will be speaking about if they are worthy. The media would praise Big Ange. I know this.
I disagree. I normally agree with your takes, but I disagree with that. I think they still will get, well, they've been poor in the league and just about to be sacked. Like, how on earth have they got? They'll still get their question marks.
Sevilla were 12th.
Yeah, but it's about Man United. Remember, it's all about the Man United. Yeah.
No, but
remember, KJ.
No, but I've stated that it's about Man United and Spurs. You know, so that take goes with what I believe.
Sevilla were 12th in La Liga when they won the Europa League in 2023. Should they have not have gotten champions? This just what I mean. We know this for a fact. This just wasn't a debate. It wasn't trending anywhere. Maybe in Spain, if somebody can put out the receipts, I'll bow down to those facts. But this wasn't a debate. Nobody cared. In fact, they just laughed at the fact. Man United finished in the top 4 that season. I think. Did we finish top 4 that season?
2023. Third, yeah.
Third. So we finished third. We finished third that season. Where was all the talk when Sevilla knocked us out of Sevilla ain't worthy of this? I don't remember that debate ever happening. I don't remember that debate ever happening.
I didn't know that in the Football Terrace we discussed Spanish football, but fine.
Well, we discussed European football. We discussed European football and the qualities in it. We covered the Champions League and the Europa League, so that's not true. But you just know what the issue here is, and people don't. You admitted it in the end, Mo. So you did admit.
No, it is. You don't. I admitted it in the beginning. I admitted it in the beginning. We're not gonna move on because of the super chats and stuff.
It's not that for me. I'm not bothered that you think we don't deserve it. I'm bothered that you wouldn't just outright say Man United and Spurs have created this conversation, because that's the fact behind this. Sevilla were 12th in the league in 2023. Did not. Yeah, sorry. Patrick, thank you. I think it's the same super chat. No, different super chat. The rule has been there for a decade. Saying it's wrong now is nonsense. It's shifting the goalposts unfairly.
But there are other rules, Patrick, that you want to change, like handball rules.
Because it affects everyone in football. It's not because 2 teams only get handball decisions.
This can happen. But now it's not only 2 teams. It's not only 2 teams. It's Sevilla. It happened to Sevilla. Now it's Man United. Okay.
It keeps happening, where I will agree with Mo is over the next few years, if the rule stays in place, if these same conversations happens again, then I will agree with Mo. This is a football issue and not specific to Tottenham and Man United. But it's about people like Mo keeping the energy. Because the people like me that think if you win it, you deserve to be there next year, we're not going to bring it up because we don't have an issue with it. I need to see Richard Keys, Wenger, Andy Gray, Carragher, Mo, Sam, the entire Liverpool fan base, the entire Arsenal fan base. They need to keep the energy. If they don't, you're all wrong about this because you only care about it because it's 2 teams. That's proof it will come in the future. It's because remember what the arguments are, where we are in the league and or the drop down. So we have to keep those things in check. It's our performance in Europe allowing our league to have 5 Champions Leagues next season. Hold that. It's very true, actually. Without Chelsea, Man United, and Spurs' European campaigns, top 5 wouldn't be a place. And the team coming 5th are literally only getting a place, and you're saying they're worthy because of the teams you're saying are not worthy to be in Europe. It's very interesting dichotomy.
Yes, because Chelsea play Liga Warsaw and they win. That's why the Premier League should get one. But that's another law. That's another rule that needs to be changed. Go ahead.
Well, Premier League teams not allowed in the Conference League.
No. Because Chelsea are playing Liga Warsaw. The Premier League should you cannot just say the points about the Champions League because Chelsea are playing Liga Warsaw in the Conference League. That's
I think. Do you not get more points for? I think you get more points for winning
Champions League. Yes.
Yeah. So it's Man United and Spurs between them have accumulated a lot more coefficient points than Chelsea.
Do you want my opinion again? Simple and clear. Only points in Champions League should actually be considered for Champions League spots. Only the teams from England or Italy that play in the Champions League should.
That's fair.
You can get an extra place in the Conference League if Chelsea win the Conference League.
Yeah. In my opinion, winning a competition should only give you an auto include into that competition again next season.
That's fair, to be fair. That is also a fair point.
It's always.
I'm not saying it's like it should be that or it shouldn't be that, but I don't think that would be an outrageous thing. It's like, hang on, mate. Where's my champ? Where's my champ?
Then you can then say why have promotion and relegation then?
Yeah, but that's through a league, through a cup competition is obviously different.
But this is a 3-tiered competition.
At the same time, Fonzie, this is the problem. It wasn't just an English thing. They did it because they wanted to where UEFA have messed up, and I go back to it again. But this is ironic because the reason why Europe was better in the 80s, 90s, and noughties is because only the champions were in the Champions League. The Cup Winners' Cup was the second biggest, and if you came second in your league and qualified for the UEFA Cup but won your FA Cup, you always chose Cup Winners' Cup. And then there was Europa. Then there was the UEFA Cup. And the way that worked is you just had typically in most countries, the cup winners are nearly always the teams that are in the top 2 or 3 league positions. And then that way you had all the quality across Europe spread out across 3 competitions, and they were all taken exceedingly seriously. UEFA messed up by putting everybody in the Champions League. It made a lot of people in a lot of countries, probably barring Spain, to be fair, they stopped taking the other competitions as serious. So then what they had to do is they added these incentives in to make teams and fans take those competitions more seriously. I'm all for the debate, Fonzie, of taking away the promotion to the next competition up. I'm just intrigued, and I want people to admit the reason why we're doing it. When United drop out the Champions League next year, they will not drop into the Europa League and therefore cannot win it. If they do not qualify for the Europa League in the league next season, equals no European football. She's very, very true. She's very, very true. So it puts United in a more vulnerable position. I agree. This would only happen to 2 clubs, Man United and Arsenal, is what Ola says here.
And Spurs. Because
do you know what's really funny, though, as well? A lot of people pushing this narrative, right, will be the same trolls. If Man United win it, will go, and this is the argument about worthy, we'll go, had a better season than Arsenal. Well, if we've had a better season than Arsenal, how can Arsenal be more worthy of a Champions League position than us? It's why it's just trolling. It's got to be. Afternoon. The problem is England could have 6 teams in the Champions League. The rest of Europe hates English teams. Be honest, Dinesh, this isn't Europe ain't pushing this. I guarantee you, no one in Europe is talking about it. They're saying, well done for winning a competition and a trophy. It's England. It's England.
They'll be more annoyed that they lost their teams lost to the 15th and the 16th team from England. They'll be annoyed at their teams for losing.
I think it is. That is true. That is true. It is a bit like, wow, get yourself into the top half of the league and you might get Europe. That's a bit like, wow, really? Is it that hard to get into Europe now? Not really. You just I'm all in Europe. You know what I mean? Like 3 bloody European competitions. It's mad. Like, let's be real, it is. But let me ask you 2 quick question. I know you're doing super chats still. Very, very quickly.
Yes, of course, mate. Of course.
You're both Man United. Would you rather win the Europa League and be in the Champions League next season, or lose? Actually, no, I can't answer that because you won't be in the Europa League. Forget that. I was trying to look at your kind of.
But do you mean it from the point of view of we've got more chance of winning the Europa League next year than we have a Champions League?
Next year,
for me, I've always, the conversation about football heritage. Football heritage wins you games. Where I believe there's truth to that is when I think fans can look at Arsenal fans on Tuesday when you consider that goal, the way that atmosphere went. Showed me a group of fans have been so long out of those positions. It was like you didn't quite know how to handle that situation. So I think that being in the Champions League, when people speak about being worthy or ready for it, I think you need to build. I think you need to build experience in a competition. And we saw that with City. The first 3 or 4 seasons, they went out in the group stages. Then they started going out early knockouts. Then they got to a semi. Then they went back a little bit again. Then they started getting to finals. Then they eventually won it. I don't believe they could have won that Champions League if up until they were ready to win it, they didn't play in the competition. So I would rather be in it. You've also got the money side. And I understand what Arsenal fans used to say about top 4. There's no point because we don't ever spend enough of that Champions League money to try and win it. Fair. But I don't think Man United are that club. I think we will spend the money to try and improve the squad to try and get to a point in a few years' time to win it. So I would rather be in it, trying to win it and failing and growing as a club than not be in it at all personally. So I feel there is it's like with Forest and these teams. I get why they would celebrate Champions League football because their owners are going to throw the kitchen sink at trying to use that money to improve the club. And I think Ineos will do the same with us, to be fair. But I do get the point as well. Winning trophies is great, but I agree with a lot of the Arsenal fans this last week. I know that you guys don't want to see Man United lift the trophy or Spurs, especially.
I'd rather Man United, though. I'd rather Man United.
I get that I get that. At the same time, I do see the logic in some of the arguments where they've said, because I think you'd have won the Europa League if you were in it this year. I think you'd win it at a canter. I really do think you would win it at a canter based on how good you've been in the Champions League. If you brought that form across, because the teams I'm not going to lie. There's no one in the Champions League that's anywhere near as good as any of these semi-finalists. Probably not as good as anyone that's in the quarterfinals, if we're being honest with you. So the idea of is getting to a semi of the Champions League better than being in this year's final of the Europa League? I see the argument for yes, even though there's not a trophy for being in the semi-finals because you're competing at a higher level. And my dad, who's a Spurs fan, said this to me, Potsy. He said, if my business is aiming to turn over 100 grand this month and we fall short and hit 80 grand, and the business next door that does the same thing is trying to hit a target of 10 grand, and brings in 15. Yes, they've gone 100 and whatever, 150% over target, but have they had a better month than me? And I was like, for me, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that you have to apply that context to it. And doesn't mean I won't celebrate winning it and won't be happy with it. At the same time, I would still rather be in a position where my team could be winning the Champions League this year than a guarantee of a Europa League final. If I could swap right now, I'd still rather be in your position this season than Man United's, because there's a chance you could win a bigger trophy. And I would gamble. And we ain't guaranteed the Europa League, by the way, because Spurs have beaten us 3 times this year. I would still rather gamble and go for that Champions League for me personally. Don't a lot of the traditional top 6 teams look down on only qualifying for the Europa League and get mocked for it? But now United or Spurs are on the verge of winning it. People seem to be outraged by it.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely true. It's a Mickey Mouse Cup. No one cares about it. Well, I told you, I said this the other day, and rivals hate it. This potential all-English Europa League final, for good or bad reasons, I don't really care, is going to have more eyes and more debate about it than the Champions League final if Arsenal don't make that Champions League final. It will be discussed more on social media. It will get, in England, it will get higher viewing figures. There's something about it that is just going to attract so much attention. It's unbelievable. A lot of it might be negative, like these conversations, but it's going to be massive. It's going to be massive.
Also, a part of it is because we are 16th and 15th. If
but
we
yeah,
were both
it's
8th and 7th, no one cares as much as they are now.
It's the combination of it all. Absolutely is. This year from Dinesh again, he says, Terry, in 2005, Liverpool won the Champions League and finished outside the top 5 and Liverpool made it to round 1. Liverpool versus Man United will be a massive game. Yeah, listen, it's it will be. And again, that was challenged back then. I remember back then, that was when they just brought the rule in that if you won the Champions League, you stayed in it. Because remember, for many, many years, that wasn't the case. You had to qualify for your league. Winning it never got you back into it the following year. Okay, if people don't like this, then give winning the Europa League the same energy so teams who win it can grow towards the Champions League sides. Yeah, listen, I think there should be reward. I think there should be reward for winning these trophies. I really, really do. Sorry, I already done that super chat. I'm sure, Anthony, hope you're well, mate. Long time no see. A few Chelsea fans coming back to the terrace after yesterday. I like it. I'm sure Sarri finished in the top 4 regardless who we won against in the Europa League. So even if we didn't win the Europa, we would have qualified anyway. That's a fair point, to be fair. But I was just looking at the tournament in the sense of no one complained about your route, that you didn't play any top Champions League teams that dropped down. You were just congratulated for winning it. And it is what it is for me. Yes, our Premier League seasons have been bad, but we've seen on numerous occasions, both in England and abroad, teams that can have very different seasons in the cup competitions compared to their league form. It's the first time I've ever seen the reward of winning those cup competitions being deemed as unworthy based on league forms. First time ever. And all I was asking is, why is that all of a sudden? It was a little bit confusing to me. Community Shield argument, it's about the best 2 teams in the country. Cups have more weight than league rankings. This is true. This here says Everton, Brentford, Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Does Arsenal really drop points the way they did with those teams panel? Look, that brings us nicely on to the next talking point of the day. A massive week for Arsenal. How do you think you prepared yourself for that at the weekend, Potsy?
Terribly. In a word, it was awful, man. It was awful. I thought the first half hour we were okay, to be fair. I actually thought Martin Ødegaard turned up for the first 20 to 25. Thought Declan Rice played really well. And I think it went wrong in the second half, where whether they had their eyes on Wednesday or not, when you play a team that strong, you have to deliver. Like, PSG have literally arrested everyone, even Donnarumma. So when you're resting Donnarumma and all the rest of the side, you're ready for Wednesday. And we're playing everybody trying to win the game against Bournemouth. Now, look, I think a lot of people get confused as to why I was annoyed. I wasn't actually annoyed that we'd lost the game because I thought we were going to drop points. I actually thought it was 1-1. The reason I went for 1-1 was because I thought we were going to rest players ready for Wednesday. And unfortunately, we went for every single player to play. and we ended up throwing the game away. By quite some distance as well, by the way. I thought Bournemouth were excellent in the second half. I thought they bopped us off the park. I thought Ben White got cooked. I thought Ødegaard had a stinker again. I didn't really like the performance of David Raya. I didn't really like the performance of Saliba. I thought in midfield, Partey and Rice were okay. The front three were awful again. Other than a scuffed shot by Rice, Martinelli and Saka, we had nothing. And this is a Bournemouth side who I've got a lot of time and respect for. But when Bournemouth are beating you home and away in a season, you don't really deserve to win much. Let's be real. It has been really bad in the Premier League this season for Arsenal. We could potentially, if we don't beat Liverpool at Anfield, Newcastle at home and Southampton away, we could finish scraping onto a Champions League spot and potentially being over 20 points behind the Premier League champions.
And more importantly, Potsy, you might not be worthy in Mo's eyes. You know what I mean? So
we might not be worthy of a Champions League side in Mo's eyes. So we need now to look at ourselves. Now, Wednesday is the only thing that matters right now, because I've got to be honest with you. We win that Champions League, I couldn't give a shit where we come. I couldn't give a damn where we come anyway, as long as we're in the top four. I'm not one of these, we come second, we're the best losers. I'm not one of those guys. I don't really care. If you said to me now, where do I want to finish if I can't win it? Obviously, I'm going to pick second. But I'm not going to start celebrating it and going, oh my God, it's amazing. Second, we didn't get fourth. Praise the Lord. I'm never doing any of that crap. We get Champions League spot. It's exactly the same as what second, third, fourth, and funny enough, now fifth get as well. So for me, I don't believe
winners of the Europa League apparently too. So
again. Yeah, exactly. And they're winners of the Europa League as well. So for me, and I've always said, if we finish in the top four and Man United or Spurs win the Europa League, they've had a better season than us, because they've got the same thing as us, their Champions League, and they lift a trophy. We don't. I've always said that, right? In terms of were they better than us? Probably not, but they're more successful than us that season, right? So that's the way I look at it. Wednesday's huge.
You don't think that reaching a final of the Champions League is a successful campaign at all for you?
No. How can it be successful?
You think only a successful campaign is the team that win it, for example?
You got to win a trophy to be successful. You can have a good season. Yeah, you can have a great season.
So it's a good campaign then. It's a good campaign.
What would be?
So reaching a Champions League final, for example. So do you believe if Aston Villa reach a Champions League final, for example, if they have reached a Champions League final, they had a good campaign, right?
100%, yeah.
But for Arsenal, no, it's win or nothing.
No, it's a good campaign, but it's not successful, is it? Unless you're winning today. This is the way people get confused. Have we had a good season if we get to the Champions League? Yeah, probably. It's a good campaign in that competition. Okay. Have we had a successful one? Absolutely not. You have to do that to be successful. Like Nottingham Forest, for example. Let's say they get Champions League. They'll say that's a successful season. Well, it's not.
So do you think the guy that runs...
Yeah, they've had a great season.
Do you think the guy that runs in the Olympics and get a bronze medal or a silver medal, they are not successful? They had a good race, but they're not successful.
Have they won it?
No, they haven't. They got a silver medal.
I was very clear about the What's the idea of running the race? Is it to come fourth, fifth, third, second, or is it to come third?
No, it's not. It's to win it. You try to win it, of course, but there are teams that fail. There are teams that fail, and there are teams that try and they just come short. It's my point about this is failure for the Champions League campaign is not only not winning it, like not winning it and reaching a final and losing in penalties, for example. Yes, there's only one team to win it, but in my opinion, if you reach the final and you lose on penalties or something like this and you put in a good performance, yes, you haven't won the trophy, yes, but doesn't mean that you have just failed this campaign. It means that you might have been unlucky then.
If we don't win it, and I'm saying it's failure, you're saying it could still be successful even if you get to the final. How else can it be successful? Let's say it's not nothing. We're going to lose the Champions League. Let's just say.
Yeah.
How else can the season be successful?
No. The season in the league has been a failure. I'm not disagreeing with you. The season in the league has been a failure.
This is what you do, Mo. This is what you do. You try, because you 1 minute start ranting and raving about Inter Milan, saying, "Oh my God, sack him if he doesn't win stuff." But when it comes to us and Arsenal, it's completely different. Oh, they could have a successful season still. This is the problem. You've got to keep the same energy. You're using elite mentality for Inter Milan.
We're not on the same level. We're not on the same level. Yeah, we're not on the same level.
I think
I know this from you.
In terms of the success thing, you said about not think
Because go ahead, KJ, because I can easily respond to this. Very simple. When Inzaghi did win the league against Milan or like against Napoli, and we went to the Champions League final, I changed my mind on him, even though I said that he's not good enough. At the end of the season, when he reached the final, he put in a good performance and he was unlucky to lose the final. I changed my mind on it. And by the way, the season after we won the league, I'm not saying that Arsenal will win the league next season. My point about this is that at the current moment, you have failed in the league. You didn't win the league. Very simple. You didn't win the league. You regressed in the league. If he reaches the final and he doesn't win it, for example, that doesn't mean just, that he's failed, he's done, he's this and that. No, I think maybe he should be given another chance. Unless, and I'm going to put a very good, I'm going to tell you. Yes, I'm going to tell you. By the way, Wallahi, I would. By the way, I would. I'm just going to tell you one thing. I hold the same for my club. And actually, I think Dayo put it very well. Dayo said, I always aspire to have better for my club. I'm going to tell you an example. Even if Inzaghi win the league this season, miraculously win the league this season, Dan, and there's a and my club is going to sack Inzaghi and get a Pep Guardiola, I'm all for it. I don't have any sentimental value. My point about Arsenal, even if Arteta won something this season, a cup or double, but there is a better manager out there that Arsenal can go and get, I will tell you, fine. My problem with the people is that the people that say, remove Arteta and then get somebody that is not like realistic, for example, get a manager that might not even be better than Arteta. I don't know. That's a problem. If you're going to go and get Inzaghi from Inter, I believe that maybe Inzaghi. But Inzaghi is not realistic for Arsenal because you need a complete rebuild.
No, we don't.
And if we're going to go into it, I'm going to tell you why Inzaghi doesn't suit Arsenal in very short. We have 0 wingers. We have 5 strikers. Arsenal have 0 strikers, all wingers. So you need a lot of rebuild. You don't have wing backs. We have only wing backs. So Inzaghi to Arsenal means you rip the squad. You rip the squad and you start over buying 5 because he plays 2 striker formation basically. So you need 5 strikers. So he doesn't suit. Diego Simeone from Atletico Madrid. I'm just giving you an example. Diego Simeone from Atletico Madrid makes $50 million, 45 million euros. Arsenal are not going to pay 45 million euros a year to a manager. He makes 40 million pounds a year. No one in England is going to pay that. Arsenal definitely not going to pay that. The only manager that you can go and get is Xabi Alonso. But my problem with this is that if you're not going to get a better manager than Arteta, like what's the point? By the way, Inter did this. We struggled so hard, Dan, for 6 years to make Champions League. Luciano Spalletti finally got Inter into the Champions League. And by the way, that time it was a success because we hadn't been in the Champions League for 6 years, right? But do you know what Inter did? Because they found a better opportunity in Antonio Conte. They sacked Spalletti after being successful for Inter because they found a better opportunity. So I'm not opposing what people are saying. If there is a better manager, if Arsenal have a better manager out there that they're going to bring to the club, even if Arteta wins a cup double, sack the guy and get a better manager. My problem is there's no point of talking about it because who are Arsenal going to get better than him realistically? I see no one. Basically, other than Xabi Alonso.
The reason that people don't want to talk about it is because everyone knows that he's staying whatever happens, right? And I agree with that. He is staying whatever happens. So we can say rant and rave and go mental if we don't win that Champions League to say get rid of him. He's not going to go anywhere. He's staying. So I agree with that point. But my point, what I don't understand with the club and with the fans and with the fan base that do not want this guy removed, it's like they've got some unbelievable connection with this guy that this guy is literally look at the credit in the bank. Look at the 15 trophies he's won at Arsenal. Look at the 6 he's won in the last 6 years. Come on, man. There are other managers out there. It doesn't matter whether... And you know what? And I'll say this. Let's say it's Diego Simeone, right? Let's just say, most of he's unrealistic, cool. Let's just say he's going to be the next Arsenal manager. If in 2 or 3 years' time he hasn't won anything, the same conversation happens. It's not like, oh, no, but we've got to keep hold of him. He's the only manager here. You go and get Simone Inzaghi or you go and get Xabi Alonso, as Mo said.
I think that's fair, but then you've got to look at the stage. Okay, I blame your club for this because now you can't speak about building in football without it being, it's Arsenal phases. But you got to look at the stages that people.
I blame my club too, KJ.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We look at where Arteta came in. You weren't at the same level that you are now, right? So it's built to that point. If Diego Simeone came in, the base level is way higher from when Arteta came in.
100%.
So it'd be
100%.
it is easier to say 3 years, not winning anything, gone. I think with Arsenal, especially in the Champions League, where I won't sit here and say it's quote unquote failure, is because Terry just mentioned it before about Manchester City. You guys have not been in the Champions League for a long time. And you just got back into it. What is last season, your first time in it in now, 6 years? You just got in it. 7 years. So this is your second year in the Champions League after a 7-year drought. If we're talking about teams having to build and get used to the competition and get used to the pressure and get all used to all these things, and they would then eventually get to potentially winning the Champions League. I think it's harsh to say Arsenal have failed in the Champions League this year just because they get to a semi-final or maybe a final and don't win it. Because you guys haven't gotten it. You ain't got no pedigree like that. Man City, look how long it took, like Terry said, took Man City years to get to winning the Champions League.
AJ, he's put himself in that position now.
Final.
But he's put himself in that position now. Because it's fine saying what you're saying by going, well, he's just won the FA Cup and last year he won the League Cup and the season before that he won the Premier League. How can you say it's failure now if he gets to the Champions League final and doesn't win it? This guy has won nothing.
That's
nothing.
fair.
Yeah. So when people say to me it's harsh, you're being impatient, give it time, trust the process. Give me the date then. Tell me the date that we're going to win a trophy. I'm talking about a Carabao Cup here, not a Champions League or a Premier League, because I'm okay with Carabao Cups and FA Cups. I'm cool with that. Some people aren't. They want it to be major or nothing. I don't think we're in a position to be poo-pooing cups when we haven't won anything for 5 years. I haven't won a League Cup for over 30. I haven't won anything in Europe for over 30. I haven't won a Premier League for 21. Just give me the date we're going to win.
Do you think Arsenal team is complete? Then?
Huh?
Do you think Arsenal team is complete?
No, whose fault's that?
It's his fault. Do you think the club is moving into the right direction of hiring someone to take the power of him to correct the mistakes that happened from Edu and Arteta in terms of like freaking?
I mean, look, I have to see
all
it
the
in my
players
life.
they got
I like
wrong.
Berta. I like Berta. I think it's the best appointment in the Kroenke reign, but I need to see it work. And this is the big question mark now: is it going to? Is he going to have the power? Is he going to have the voice? Is Arteta going to allow that? That's a big question mark for me. But we need.
But
to see
it looks like it, to be honest, then because I have lately, you know, Terry does a lot of like done deal shows and a lot of videos. Lately, look how many times Terry has spoken about Cisco. There are no news now that Arsenal are linked to Cisco anymore. All the news is Zubimendi, exactly that. So it looks like the project player is kind of Arsenal are like reportedly moving away from it to the more of the Gyökereses, the Zubamendis. We were talking about Arsenal signing the 21 years old Cisco, this 21 years old, this 22 years old. Now we're talking about Arsenal targeting that. So it looks like Arsenal have moved away and reportedly have moved the power from Arteta's project players to more of like, let's get the guy that is ready now.
Very quickly then, before we move on, let me ask very, very quickly then. So he's staying. He's not going. If he wins the Champions League, I want him to stay. If he doesn't win the Champions League, I would replace him. He's not going to get replaced. He's got another season. He gets another season. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, I give him one more season." They all said this last summer, by the way. Now he's got. They should have just said back then, give him 2 more years. But now it's another year. The goalposts have changed again. I want another year. You know, if Arnie Slot finishes ahead of him, get him out. Next minute, give him another year. But now, all of a sudden, we get another year. So he gets another year. Andrea Berta comes in. We get the targets we want. We finally buy a striker. Let's just say it's Gyökeres, right? Even though I'm hearing Man United do want him if they win the Europa League. Let's just say we get the striker, we get the winger, we get the midfielder, and we get the goalkeeper back up and the defender back up, right? Let's have a brilliant summer. Everyone goes, do you know what? That squad's looking pretty healthy now. That's good enough to go and win a trophy. Not a Premier League or a Champions League, a trophy. Because Eddie Howe can win a trophy, Ten Hag can win a trophy, Unai Emery can win trophies in Europe or wherever with other clubs that are not the level of Arsenal. We should be able to win a trophy. If he does not win the trophy, what then? Do we go another season?
No,
just give me a date. Just give me a date. My question is, give me a date.
Yeah.
Please tell me when we win the trophy, and we'll discuss it. But no one can, or I don't know. It just takes time. That's the only answer we got. It's just another season.
Sorry, Potts. I understand that the argument you're making. You know, but I think there's also a reverse argument. I'm going to play devil's advocate here about replacing him, and this has been my conversation all along. Where you've got to be careful is it needs to be someone that you and your club are convinced is better than Mikel Arteta. And you'll get people that will claim, well, no one knew who Slot was. Well, some of us knew who Slot was, and he has gone in and done a fantastic job. And maybe the current manager of Ajax or the current manager of PSV is your next choice. Maybe they are better than Mikel Arteta. That's for either fans to do their research on or like Don does, or for the club to do its to do it due diligence, right? I understand it. The issue I have is that I think in life you've got to try and provide solutions if you're going to have a public discourse about something. What I don't like about the argument, not what people want, but the argument is, well, who would replace him? Well, I don't. It's not my job. But you're creating an argument. It's literally your job in an argument to provide a solution and a rationale to why it would work. And the only issue that I sort of have is the Standards FC mob, because they will talk about Simeone, but they talk about this is the man who ain't won a trophy in 4 years. I know Simeone's amazing, but based on their own logic, why would you want someone who, in your eyes, is a 4-peat loser to come in to replace a manager who, at the moment, is a 4 or 5-peat loser for not winning a trophy? The problem is the arguments don't stack up, and that is why I think the dialogue is really hard. I did a video about sacking Arteta yesterday, and there's some comments from Gooners that want him sacked that are like, I can't believe you're defending him. There are some comments from people who don't want him to be sacked. Why are you turning on Arteta? We don't want to hear from you on this. They didn't listen to the video. Like they just didn't listen to what I said, because the argument is so polarized and toxic, because it's a lot of the time it's about people's egos being massaged as opposed to speak constructively. So I actually said in the video, I think Inzaghi may be someone you could actually bring in realistically. Mo has now provided a level of analysis, which means actually it's a big change. Maybe it's a change that makes you better. Maybe it's a change that takes you backwards. But I think it's about the understanding. And I feel that the problem is with the conversation is that there's a group of people that are just bring me someone, anyone, we will get better. There's another group, there is no one out there. There's no way we can get better. I think both arguments are wrong. Not what you want to happen, but it's the argument that is bad. I'm going to be blunt with it. So many of the arguments lack intellect, nuance, discussion, a back and forth. There is no, and I know you're emotional. When it comes to Man United, I think less because I'm more emotional. I understand it. But from the outside looking in, I look at the names that a lot of the Arteta outers want, and I hear Zidane and Simeone. I hear Ancelotti, and I do look at Ancelotti and just think, this is a man who is, I know he's won those Champions Leagues.
He's going to Brazil, and he as well.
He's going to go Brazil. Again, it's about, if they're not attainable, and that's what you have to think about, because the one thing I don't think you can afford to do, like I look at Areola as an example, I think that's too big a risk considering, and you are on the edge. You are on the edge of winning something big. And do you know how you know that? Because for a lot of, when I listen to Arsenal fans talk at the end of this season, it's almost your manager may get a trophy or he may get sacked. That is literally the precipice of you're so close to the edge. Your next move has to be right, because if your next move does take you backwards, it may take you a long I think your fan base will explode. I think it will be like civil war. And that isn't me saying, and that isn't me saying you shouldn't get rid of him. I'm just speaking to fans and saying, have sensible conversations. Stop trying to one-up each other all the time, and actually discuss it and have an honest conversation. Because in the end, you might look at it and go, actually, just from your own opinion, until I actually see 2 or 3 available and attainable candidates I think are better, I might relax. Maybe by the end of the conversation, you've got Arteta in as going, do you know what? I actually think those 2 or 3 could. But the conversations don't happen like that in the Arsenal fan base. It's just, I'm right, you're wrong, shut the fuck up, you got no standards. I'm right, you're wrong, you're just a toxic, negative bastard. And for me, there's good points being made on both sides. And I just think that the Arteta in and out conversation is such an interesting one from the outside looking in, because so many points on both sides I feel get ignored. To your point as well, there has to be a cutoff point. It can't just be keep him forever. That can't exist, because you are Arsenal, and I don't believe you're a small football club. You're a giant football club, and you've got to strive to win trophies. There has to come a point where you move on, and not being able to answer that is also wrong, in my opinion. You have to provide an element of a deadline. Everybody needs a deadline to a certain degree and a target that you have to achieve. At the same time, though, just because you miss out on it this year doesn't mean, because again, people say 5 years without winning anything, but we also know a good 2.5 years of that was building to that point. So is it disingenuous to include the beginning stages where everything was being ripped out versus the last 2 to 3 seasons? I just think a nuanced conversation needs to happen a little bit.
I got a question for Potsy. Who do you blame for this season's failures, especially in the league and in the domestic cups, for not winning anything? Is it Arteta, or is it the board for the transfers that they gave Arteta this season?
So the board and the owners are an absolute disgrace. In the last two windows, it's been shocking. However, Mikel Arteta's in-game management, team selection, substitutions have gone a long way into ruining a lot of our results. Style of play has been an issue. Everybody says they don't want Conte or Simeone or Mourinho because it's boring to watch. This has been easily the most boring season I've ever seen of Arsenal trying to play football. 1-0s or 1-1s or 2-1, and everyone goes, "Hey, we won 2-1." It's come on, man. We're not blitzing teams. Basically, I think there's only been 4 opportunities where we blitz teams. One against West Ham, one against Palace. We beat Man City 5-1, and I think we beat Sporting 5-1. Other than that, I'm struggling to look at it. Obviously, Real Madrid of recent comes to mind, but that's kind of it. There's been 4 or 5 opportunities, whereas in the last couple, we've been blitzing teams. There was 5, 6, 7 all going in. Mikel Arteta has been having so much PTSD of the last couple, where it's keep it rigid, don't concede. He's more worried about not losing than going to actually give it a go and going to win. Yeah. And that's where I think it's let him down. So I think he has to hold an L for that. Also, when people say, "Oh, injuries," he's bought 31 players. That's almost enough for three sides now. So it's not like, these players that he bought in they're actually the reason for some. Now, look, he's bought some good ones. He's got some hits and some misses. And as Mo's point, hopefully Berta comes in and actually does have an understanding of how to take it forward. But when you look at the players that have come in, like Partey and Gabriel and Erdegaard and Ben White and Timber, you're looking at Rice going, this is looking pretty good. Then there's also ones where I'm like, we've had about 17 goalkeepers, about 19 left backs. We've had, God knows, no striker whatsoever in 5 years. Still waiting to replace Aubameyang, who went in 2022. Fabio Vieira coming in for 40 million when Vitinha went for 42 from the same club. We're looking at the situation with Tavares and with Lokonga and with Marquinhos and Pablo Mari and Cedric. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, Eddie Nketiah and Nelson have been putting 100K a week. These are big, big problems for me and what he's getting wrong. Yeah. And, I made the example the other day and I said, if you get rid of Mikel Arteta, people act as if this club is then buried and we start again. You don't start again. The phases, if you want to call it that, continue. Yeah, we're still going to be in 4.5 phase, whatever the bollocks it is. We're not going to go back down to phase 1 if we get rid of Mikel Arteta. Yeah. And if we do, we're not going to go to a stage where it's like, right, we've just got rid of Arteta. All right, Pep, what's the name of your assistant? Vikings. Yeah, we'll have him, please. We'll give him 5 years.
Yeah. If you guys did that, that'd be worrying. The reason why I asked that question though is because I have an example with Amorim. And before people say, "Oh, Amorim sucks," it's just listen. Amorim won the league with Sporting. And then he went on a 2-year drought of not winning the league. And I remember one of those seasons, I think the second season after that, he basically said to the board, "Listen, I've messed up. If you want me gone, I'll go." You know what I mean? I feel like I'm not doing my job right. But the board said to him, "No, stay because we have failed you. We've not replaced players well enough. We've let players go and not bought in good replacements. We haven't given you the quality you need to win the league." So he stays. They're buying better players, and he goes on and wins the league again. So I'm just thinking, is this potentially a situation with Arteta where this season especially, the other seasons I can understand. This season especially, is it more due to the fact that they failed to get him top quality signings, the reason why he haven't won the league, over the fact that he's just not good enough?
So I'll answer this really quickly because Terry wants to move on, but I'll answer this very quickly. Mikel Arteta has admitted that he has the final say on transfers. Mikel Arteta said that within 10 minutes he knew Raheem Sterling was the right guy. Mikel Arteta said that Calafiori was the guy that he needed for his left-sided defender. Mikel Arteta said he was obsessed with Mikel Merino in midfield because of his stats and what he brought over in Spain. So those signings that came in were definitely Arteta's signings as well as the guys that they get. Kroenke doesn't know who the bloody those players are. He's never heard of them. Yeah. He's just said, "Here's the money, go and bid it." He's gone, right, that's £80 million. I don't want to put that on Gyökeres. I want to put that on a left back, a squad player, midfielder, and a Dusty Sterling. So that's why I'm blaming Mikel as well, man. Hopefully that explains it.
No, that's fair.
Do you know what? Just to add on that before, because I want to get into some of the transfer stories, talk a bit of Palmer and Trent as well. What I will add to that, though, is this is maybe just how everybody sees things differently. And the problem is with a lot of these conversations is people making excuses. I still look at that as an ownership issue because I don't think head coaches should be given that type of power in the modern day game. I think that is they're not Wengers, they're not Fergies, they're not trained to be managers. So it's almost, we did this wrong 5 times on the bounce at United. We gave our managers far too much power in terms of the squad build and the vetoes. Now, if you're building a squad that matches a manager's identity, then there's always going to be that overlap. But this is why I think what they've got to do is give that power to Berta, because someone like Berta and the team he builds should turn around and go, I know you're obsessed with Moreno in midfield. If you want him as a second or third choice striker, great. If you want him as a midfielder, absolutely fucking not. I almost feel like you saw it in Liverpool. Liverpool's recruitment and their performances dipped when Edwards left. And I know that the manager will always be more famous than a sporting director at a football club. But I think the modern day football fan ignores this. And sometimes when people say you've got to back a manager, sometimes backing them is by taking away certain powers, in the sense of backing them is knowing what's best for them or what's best for the football club. And I think Arsenal, and one thing I've said about Arteta a lot, I think he's had or been given too much control in those areas. I remember reading that he was going to have a say on essentially who your sporting director should be the manager's boss. You shouldn't really have a say on who your boss is going to be to a certain degree, right? Maybe there's got to be a chemistry there and I'll get on really well with him. But that decision should be made by the Cronkies on who is going to run the footballing operation at a football club.
Absolutely.
But viewers, give us your thoughts, give us your opinions on that. A question to Dan. Even if Mikel wins the Champions League, do you think he's good enough to win trophies in the future?
Look, if he can prove in the first 5 years of being a manager that he can win an FA Cup and a Champions League, then of course he can win trophies in the future, right? What you've got to do is allow this squad that he's built to have some form of momentum and winning culture and mentality. And the problem is in the last 5 that he hasn't been able to do that since he's bought these players. Now, in 5 years, he's bought 31 players, He should be able to now get them together to win them a trophy, whether it's a League Cup or a Champions League. I'll take any of them. Obviously, there's an order of priority. Champions League's the one that we're close to getting. Let's get it over the line. If he gets it over the line, all this stops, by the way, which is why I'm so desperate for him to win this competition. Is he good enough? Do you want him in? Are you in or out with him? Are you in or out? It's very simple. I'm out unless he proves me wrong. Win me a trophy.
Inshallah, you will not.
Hey, yeah.
Inshallah, you will not, and Inter will win it. Inshallah. But winning, inshallah, Inter will win it.
If you win it, then
because otherwise Inzaghi has failed.
There you go. And
if
Inzaghi doesn't win Serie A or the Champions League, you told me you want him out. So there we go.
Yeah, I want a better manager.
There we go. How toxic and negative of you, Mo. Can't you see what he's done? Can't you trust his process and see how long it takes? It takes time. You're coming up against Conte, etc. Come on, man.
Tony here says Arteta said this, Arteta said that, and then in the other breath they complain of how Arteta lies in these press conferences. What is it that he's saying the truth, or he lies all the time, Dan?
Well, I've never said that he lies all the time. There has been streams where I've become very emotional and gone, you liar, because stuff that he said that is then come back on. But of course he doesn't lie all the time. But you will get that. There's a lot that he says that I agree with. There's a lot that he says that I disagree with.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why everyone is being negative on purpose. Can't anyone see that we are back on phase 1 when Berta comes in? Arteta should
quality
fresh start from phase 1 if we're being fair. Yeah, it is true.
Surely that's sarcastic, right?
It's definitely sarcastic. It's definitely sarcastic.
That's brilliant.
One of the things about this super chat, I know you gotta move on. One of the things about super chat quickly, Super Mick Arteta, is that Arteta was so frank in the beginning of the thing. Like when he was hard, he said there is like 5 processes or whatever, and some people bought into it and some people didn't. He was so frank. He never said that I'm gonna win in phase 4. He said, and he was just asked. He said, I'm in phase 4, phase 5. We complete the team. We're building the team.
Man.
He literally just said that, and then people bought into it.
What's really interesting with football fans is we always want to know what's going on at our clubs, but I don't actually think we do sometimes. If he'd have just said none of that and not mentioned because I just don't think Arsenal were doing anything different in terms of the phase thing than any other club. It's just different. And I heard a lot of Liverpool fans say never once did Klopp mention phases. Yes, but FSG and Brendan Rodgers were the first ones that I heard publicly talk about projects. But then I watched the Man United 99 documentary that went all the way back to then. And you heard the interviews with the players from them talking about Fergie telling them to trust the process and how they're building to win the Champions League. So these things have been going on in football forever. We just pick and choose when we like them or we don't like them.
It's like you elect a president and he's telling you that I'm going to get the unemployment level to 5% and start at 30%. And he said within 5 years, and by year 4, it is 15%. And you're like, oh my God, you said it's 5%. I told you in 5 years. In 5 years. I literally told you that, and you accepted. You elected me.
I genuinely do. So I genuinely do believe we need to start viewing football clubs like building a house and building buildings, because there's so much similarities between rebuilding, taking things out, making things look worse before you get better. I think there's so many similarities in that, in building a house.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to tell you something. If someone from the beginning of the election said this president is not good, okay, aka Lee, for example, Lee said, I don't think this guy is good enough. Day one, he said that. Like, honest, there are other people that said this guy is not good enough. Like, I think Curtis said the same. Day one, they said this president is not good enough. He's not going to get the unemployment to 5%. That's fine. But the president told you 5 years and you were accepting it. And now in year 4, you're like, no, but you didn't get it to 5%. But also, I'm still in year 4.
Everybody does it. We've seen a gal this season. If he doesn't win, he's got to go, change his mind. I've seen Arteta outers that have said, I remember Lee Gunner said this, and again, but by the way, they're entitled to change their mind because context is important. But I remember Lee saying on one of my shows, if he finishes within 5 points of the league title winners, I'll back him. He didn't. But because the problem is when you make these statements, and it's not a dig at a gal or a dig at Lee, it's the reality, is that you say something like, yeah, if Man United don't finish in the top 8 next year, I'll want Ruben Amorim out. That, by the way, for anyone who's clipping it, that is me just giving a hypothetical. We might finish 9th. But actually, in the context of the season, we might look amazing. We might be worthy in the eyes of Mo. And I think, actually, I'm willing to give it more time. And that's why it's when you make a statement, you mean it. But things do change. And the worst thing you can become is someone that doesn't look at context, doesn't live in the grey areas. And a man, especially a man who cannot change his mind is a problem.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like Dan, because I didn't know Dan's stance at the beginning.
I hear that. I hear that.
As far as I know, Dan wanted a ready-made manager. He wasn't buying into, let's build the club.
I get that. Let's just finish these, because they've got 3 or 4 more subjects that I'll do in 25 minutes. One realistic name who is better than Arteta out there is Valverde. Won 2 La Ligas with Barca, won the Copa with Bilbao, and plays a defensive system. Look, I like Valverde. He's really good. Did well at Barca. Of course, Bilbao is an interesting one. Again, I don't think that'd be a bad suggestion as a manager. Arsenal fans last season also said there is no better manager than Arteta, but Barca got Flick, who is earning 3 million a year, and Arteta is on 15 million. And this is where I disagree. There aren't better there haven't been in the last 3 or 4 years better managers. I think Flick is a great example of that. You're absolutely right. Can't win a trophy if you're only prioritize 2 big ones.
I think what people are saying is that we never compete on all 4. He only seems to go for 1. So again, this season we've only gone for 1, which is the one we're still in. So I think this is where we need a squad to actually go and compete.
But you did go for the Premier League. You just fell off.
They tried. They tried.
They tried.
Haven't ever really been in it, KJ, have we? Let's be honest.
They tried.
Arteta transformed Arsenal from players like Mustafi, people labeling Alonso world class after 1 season. He's 8 points behind Bayern now. What is it going to be interesting with Alonso? I really rate him, but he's going to go to Real Madrid next. It's going to be if he has a bad time at Real Madrid and doesn't last very long, it'll be so interesting.
I don't think it's going to go well. I like Alonso, but
one year is going to get sacked. I promise you.
Yeah, I agree.
1 year is going to get sacked.
What you might see at Real Madrid is interesting. They're bringing in a manager who regiments his team and makes them work in a particular way. I'm going to be intrigued to see how these Real Madrid players operate behaviorally. You stay in that zone, you don't move from there. You must track back. You must do this. I've got this feeling right now, because this isn't a reflection on Alonso being a good or bad manager. I'm talking about his stock and whether people want him. But I think it's going to be astoundingly good, or it's going to end very quickly, very badly. I feel like there's going to be no in between with this situation. I really don't. Does Arsenal have the right to win the Champions League over those teams in the semis? Remember, they won their respective leagues recently.
Yeah,
they're in it.
Yeah,
so.
They're in it.
They literally beat Real Madrid, the team that was number 1.
Standards FC is all about trophies, and according to their standards, Simeone should be sacked. Yet he is their guy. Not 1 in 4 years now. They are all literally rant and cry online, yet call everybody pussies. Yeah, well, Mo is right. At the moment, Inter are bigger than Arsenal.
I never
At the
said they
moment,
weren't, by the
we're
way.
always been bigger than Arsenal. Are you
Jason
kidding
says,
me?
I agree.
sorry, Jason says, my issue with Spurs and United in the Champions League, Spurs have lost 32 Prem games. No, that's not true, though, is it?
No,
Oh,
they
in
lost 10.
in two seasons.
In 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That
2
shouldn't be
seasons, yeah.
rewarded with Champions Leagues. But we're not being rewarded for that. Man United would be rewarded because 2 seasons. We're all sitting here talking about how trophies are important. Man United 2 seasons running have won back-to-back trophies that have led to that. We can't be sitting here and saying, this is the irony. Arteta's still got to be sacked, even though they're worthy of being in these big competitions because he hasn't won trophies. And Man United, who have won these trophies, are not worthy of the prizes that come with it.
Yeah,
Come
it's
on
crazy.
now.
It's not
Come
like
on.
it's not like the Premier League is saying, you know what, Man United, you finished 15th. Here's the Champions League spot because you've got coefficient points higher than everyone else. You're getting it through the Europa League.
It's like the teams that haven't won, that have been crap for 4 or 5 years, that are the World Club Championships. I think they should have done that and done it with teams that have won it in a certain amount of time. They've actually won something. But if Man United were given a place in next season's Champions League, because if they did it this way, where they went, right, England gets an extra place in the Champions League, it doesn't go to fifth place. If they turned around and gave it to Heritage, that I would absolutely agree we don't deserve it. But you can't say we don't deserve something where it's off the back of winning back-to-back trophies. Which, by the way, only like 2 teams in England have won more trophies in the last couple of years than us. Come on.
Yeah, and it's also the fact it's from rewarded from a different competition. You're talking about the Premier League season when we're winning, we potentially get through the Europa League. It's two different things.
Funny how no one cares when we finished 8th, with 8th, won the FA Cup to get Europa League football, but not winning the Europa League and getting Champions League is triggering people. Couldn't agree more. Anthony says we played Arsenal in the final. You did play Arsenal in the final, but what I'm saying is Arsenal were a team that started the tournament in the Europa League. And one of the additional arguments that, of course, nobody provided a response to is that it's easier now because you're not playing teams that drop down. But there are multiple examples of teams winning the Europa League, never playing a team that's dropped down, or the level is like Mbeumo, who we would all put in. We wouldn't even put them as favourites in the Conference League if they got into it. So it's just the arguments don't hold water. Okay, people, I don't like this being given the Europa League thing. Same money on no teams who win and grow. Sorry, we've done that super chat, but thank you very much indeed. Cole Palmer, back to his best, boys.
After one game.
Was yesterday.
He was good yesterday. It was very good yesterday.
Yeah.
And Gary Neville has said, I'm not saying he's as good as, but he's putting him into the same brackets as a young Cristiano Ronaldo.
What?
No, I can kind of see what he's trying to say.
KJ, could you talk, because I got a lot to say about this, and it's just eating me alive from inside.
I don't agree with what Gary Neville has said, but I kind of can get what he's trying to say in terms of he isn't as good as Ronaldo, young Ronaldo in the Premier League, but is he in the same bracket? He believes the talent is in the same bracket. If that's what he's trying to say, then I get it. I don't agree, but then
can I tell you guys something? I spoke about Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden being talented players, and even Jamal Musiala and all these people, right? To be honest with you, after actually firsthand watching Lamine Yamal play football, he's the only one that can be in the regimen of Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi as youngsters. Cole Palmer is good. He has had a magnificent season last year, one of the best seasons in Europe last season. But watching Lamine Yamal play football, that is a generational talent. It's not Saka, it's not Foden, it's not Musiala, it's not Barella when he was young, it's not Bastoni. Lamine Yamal is what we call a generational talent that is an outstanding, above his peers in the world right now at the 17 years old. Yes, Cole Palmer has played well yesterday, but doesn't take away from his bad performances over the last, since December, he had 2 goals, right? Since December or something like this. The goal yesterday, he had a good performance. He scored a good goal, and it's not only about the goal, but I want to see Cole Palmer lead Chelsea to the Champions League spot in the last games, to actually say you had a dip and now you're back to your best. Final 4 games, your team needs you and you're leading them. Because I think him, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez yesterday, Lavia as well, they were magnificent along with the wingers. But I'm not going to change my mind about him having a lower season than last season, not having a good season after one game that he played against a Liverpool team that didn't put up a challenge. Yes, they destroyed Liverpool and they won fair and square, but I need to see him. Well, this game would have good and everything, but what if he doesn't play good against Man United, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest? He would be letting his team down along with the coach and the other team. So I want to see that. I'm not going to do what Gary Neville said, oh, Cristiano Ronaldo after one game. No, bro. Wait until he leads his team to the Champions League spot. The target is being achieved. Not now. He's being reactionary, as I was reactionary at some point. But football has proven to us that we cannot be that reactionary. We need to wait a little bit. Not after one game, we change our opinion. Oh, he's amazing. Because Cristiano Ronaldo, a lot of kids, and I'm just going to say this, a lot of people did not watch fucking Cristiano at Man United when he was young. Wallah al-Azim, people don't know. He used to take the ball from halfway line. I used to hate watching Man United because of Cristiano Ronaldo and how good he was. You know, when you're salty, I was fucking salty about this talent. Wallah, I promise you, bro, you don't understand. People were salty. Every football fan around the world, they were salty. Cristiano Ronaldo knows this. Used to take the ball from halfway line, dribble everyone and score. And I'm like, everyone is sleeping around this guy. People used to laugh at opposition because Cristiano would be putting them on their heads, putting them on their faces, on their bellies, and he would dribble. That is a completely different talent, with all due respect to Gary Neville, who played, I think, with Cristiano Ronaldo. Have some shame, Gary Neville. Cristiano Ronaldo used to terrorize people. Bro, when we played Man United in the Champions League, I was terrorized.
Would you say, I mean, he did say, Gary Neville, to be fair to him, I'm going to read his quote out here. His words were, why can't I find it now? Sorry, gents. His words were, he's nowhere near the level of Cristiano Ronaldo, but I'm putting him in the same sentence. So he didn't say he was as good as, same sentence. But are you saying that Cole Palmer doesn't terrorize midfielders and defenses? Because yesterday he sent Curtis Jones shopping.
Yeah, but so was Madueke yesterday. Didn't Madueke terrorize Liverpool defense yesterday? Every time Madueke got the ball, literally, they were shitting themselves. Liverpool, on the right, we gotta be honest. Madueke yesterday terrorized Liverpool, guys. Neto did. Like, come on, like, we gotta be honest.
I think it's the way. The way that Palmer beats people is not the same way as Ronaldo, young Ronaldo. Young Ronaldo was doing up a madness.
You remember the flicks and tricks
he was turning people into pretzels, bro. That's what he was doing when he was young. Palmer,
the grass used to laugh. The trees used to laugh. You're facing Cristiano. 1 second later, Cristiano's going on goal, and you're behind it. The trees are laughing at you as a defender. And we're talking about Palmer.
It's a weird comment to make because Palmer's had better games than yesterday in a Chelsea shirt, right?
Yeah, that is also true.
And to be fair, Saka and Foden have had better games than yesterday, right? But all of a sudden, we're now talking about a young Ronaldo. Look, I think that's a bit crazy, and maybe Gary Neville knows what he's doing there. But for me, I thought Chelsea were really good yesterday. I will say I don't think Liverpool were outstanding, and I don't think they had to be outstanding. And they did change the whole of their midfield. Kwanzaa had an absolute nightmare. So they did have no Kanate. They did have no, I think they played Endo, Curtis Jones, and Harvey Elliott.
Yeah.
So when you look, and I'm not slating any of those because they're good squad players, but it's not the best Liverpool side. So Chelsea might need to calm down a little bit. However, they were excellent. I thought Lavia was outstanding and has been since he's brought balance to their midfield. Cole Palmer, he was the best player on the pitch, without a doubt. I thought he was excellent. But we haven't seen that enough in 2025. Yeah. So we've got to calm down a bit.
This is not the game. We all knew Liverpool would be drunk. We all let's look at that own goal. They were all drunk. What the hell they're doing for that own goal, the first one? They're all drunk as hell. We all knew that this was going to be happening with Liverpool. They ain't going to be at the best. These ain't the games to be screaming about Chelsea and Cole Palmer, and they were brilliant. It's going to be Newcastle next week and Nottingham Forest. Facts. Those two games, if they perform like this and batter Newcastle and Nottingham Forest like they did against Liverpool, that's when I think we can start be chatting.
Why are you ignoring Man United? I thought you're worthy of a Champions League spot. So he has to perform like
Don't worry about us, man. We're here to give out 3 points to everybody while trying to get their injuries. That's why we're here for goodwill. You know what I'm saying? Make up numbers and that. But no, like those two games, if they come out of that looking like they are now, that's when I think the parading of Chelsea being back to potentially could be at their best next season, that's when we can be saying all of that, because that's where the pressure is. Those are 6 pointers. Those are basically playoff games for the Champions League. And out of all of them, Chelsea need Champions League the most. So they need to show up against these games, because if they don't win those 2 games,
But he played well yesterday.
Yeah,
Before he even scored the goal, I thought he played well today. I thought he played all right. He led the team. He was on the ball. He was direct, and he was on the left and the right. He wasn't even in one box. And I thought that Chelsea actually deserved the win yesterday. Liverpool fans are salty about it. The fans were in the stadium were not salty.
Well, some of them have been online. I'm talking very. I mean, there was obviously a video that came out of the Chelsea players having a dance and a sing-song in the changing room, and the amount of big Liverpool accounts that have shared it, basically saying this is why Chelsea will never win again. This is why they're a terrible club. They're awful. Look at these idiots. It's a weird response. You said this backstage, Potsy. It's a weird response for someone that a group of people that say they don't care about the result to be that angry, especially as there's a bit of stick between the two. The one thing I think some Liverpool fans have forgotten about is that yesterday's game was an important win for Chelsea. Yes, it has no impact on Liverpool's season. I made a little bit of a joke, and the fact that people took my joke seriously, again, you need to touch some grass, get off the fucking internet. I appreciate the view on the terrace, but please stop watching anyone and go out and live your life, because it didn't impact your life at all. But Chelsea fans aren't necessarily... There's some that are giving you a bit of stick, granted. But most Chelsea fans and players were celebrating because it's massive in the context of their season and what they're chasing. I just see a lot of responses that were a little bit strange yesterday, a little bit insecure in many ways. When
you have to say it doesn't bother me, it does bother you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't bother me. It shouldn't bother you because you've already won the league. But you were disappointed that Chelsea, because you cannot stand Chelsea. Liverpool fans hate them. It walks over them. Go on, KJ. Sorry.
But to be fair to Liverpool fans, in one aspect, when you see articles straight after the game, stuff like Romeo Lavia and Caicedo has shown why Liverpool missed out on them. Yeah, I'm sitting there even as a rival fan. I'm sitting there bruv.
Who wrote that?
Matt Law, bruv. Flipping Matt Law.
Oh my days!
They just won the league. Why are we saying stuff like this? It's just Gary Neville.
That's fair.
Matt
but
Law,
then
it's infuriating stuff, man.
I do get that. That's a crazy thing to say at this moment in time. But that shouldn't make a Liverpool fan quote tweet the Chelsea players being happy they've won a game. So I think that's where fans can be a little bit more grown up, a little bit more intellectual, a little bit more controlled. And those two things, have a go at Matt Law. You don't have to have a go at Madueke. Madueke didn't ring up Matt Law and go, bruv, write this article for me, my G. But we do that a lot in football. Trent, obviously, today has admitted that he's confirmed that he's going to quit Liverpool and go in the summer. The shirt burning has started. I saw a comment from James Redmond, big up yourself, Redders, who said that he doesn't understand. His words were, I don't understand why anyone who is a Scouser, would ever not see Liverpool as the pinnacle. There was this comment I read as well from Keo. Keo's a music person, an artist and a songwriter, big following, plays at some big festivals by the look of his pictures, said, worse than Owen, worse than McManaman. Make sure he is never, ever welcome back. He's losing a lot more than we are. See ya. A lot of venom, a lot of anger, a lot of aggression towards Trent after this announcement. I know none of us are Liverpool fans here, but what do you make of the treatment of a player that they said was the greatest right back in their club's history and English football history up until 3 weeks ago?
It's pathetic, man. It's pathetic.
Why is pathetic? They want the player to stay. He left on a free. He refused to renew his contract. He could have put a release clause. He could have come earlier and said that I want to leave, that I want a new challenge, but he left it. He never spoke about it. Listen, I don't condone violence. I don't say do the shirts burning and all this stuff, but also they have the right to be a little bit upset about it because he did them dirty. You agree that he did them dirty, right? Like leaving on a free.
I personally don't.
You don't think he did them dirty?
He's within his contractual, professional, human right not to sign a new contract with the club.
You're always again talking about the laws, KJ.
Yeah, but that's how I view it, though.
But we're here talking about emotions.
I'll throw this to you.
I'm talking emotionally. I just say he's human right. That's emotions, bro.
I'll throw this out and see if KJ agrees. If Liverpool fans can find proof that he just kept on palming them off, I'm going to sign soon, next time, soon, up until he left, then fine, he's dragged them along. But if he's been offered new deals for the past 3 years and kept on saying, no, I don't want to re-sign, how is it his fault if the club didn't sell him earlier? So I need to see
it's the club's fault. It's the club's fault.
Well, if it's
but
the club's
we don't
fault,
know.
hang on. If you're saying it's the club's fault, then how can you also say that he's done them dirty? That doesn't make sense.
No. If that happens, we don't know the truth.
But then exactly. So how, if we don't know the truth, how can you say he's done them dirty?
At the end, what we know is that Trent was offered a contract and he kept him in the dark because they kept offering him contracts. And then
hang on. So just stop that for a second. So I hear what you said. When you say kept them in the dark, like I've said, did he delay it and say soon? I promise you, I like the offer. I'll sign it soon. Trust me. Or did he say I don't want to renew? Do we know?
Based on the reports, based on the reports, Liverpool kept offering him contracts, and he kept delaying it until later it came on after even January.
Can you send me those reports so I can read them? I haven't read those.
I will send you after the show.
Even so, if that's the case, he delayed. He didn't say yes or no. If I offer you a job, Mo, and I'm like waiting for you, and you keep going, I'll give you an answer next week. Then at that point, as a business, I have to be like, this guy ain't serious. All right, cool. I'm not going to offer him a job because I'm wanting an answer. It's not about saying yes, I will sign it or won't sign it. If he's just delaying, saying I'm thinking about it, even that is an indication of actually he's doing that for too long. That is on me to go and sort that out. I need to take onus of that situation. I need to take control of the situation. He is in every right, I believe, to wait, to think. Because if everyone's saying this is an emotional connection to the club, it's an emotional decision that he has to make, why should he rush it?
But I never said it's not his right. See, I never said it's not his right.
I know.
I never said that. But the fans have the right to feel about it, that there's a scouser out there that grew at the club, that left them at the end of his contract, refused to sign a new contract, and he wanted to go to Real Madrid, which is like a rival for Champions League or something. So it is his right. He made his bet. I never claim that it's not his right.
To be upset. You asked me why is it pathetic, and then started speaking. I never even got to answer the question. I'm about to say, I don't think it's wrong for Liverpool fans to be upset. You can be upset. If Kobe Mainoo left on a free, I would be sad. But what I think is pathetic is the levels that they've gone to. Retracting how you feel about him. You thought he was the best right back in the world, defending him, and just because he's not signing a new contract and he's leaving, now he's apparently the worst defender you've ever seen. You're burning his shirt again. You're sending out some mad abuse to this guy just because he didn't sign with your football club. And again, all while being professional. If he was unprofessional, if he was out in the clubs every single week, if he was going around doing things he shouldn't be doing, if he was arriving late to training, if he wasn't giving it all on the pitch, if he was the worst player every single week, I would then also understand more the vim towards the situation. But he wasn't. There's no reports of him being unprofessional. There's no reports of him not trying. And there's been no reports of him being the worst every single time.
But I didn't say I condone that, but you have the right to be upset, right?
But so for me, the level of upset is far beyond what is actually happening. That's why I think it's pathetic. It's an overreaction.
Yeah, no, listen,
I agree with this.
Liverpool fans are entitled to feel how they want. No one's saying they shouldn't feel that way or they can't feel that way. I always look at it this way with the loyalty conversation. My mind got changed about this years ago. None of us care about that academy kid born in Liverpool, born in Manchester, born in North London, born in Milan, who joins our club at 6, is at the club till they're 22, so the best part of 2 decades, who never gets given a first team opportunity, who leaves not a rich man, who leaves with no trophies. No one cares about the loyalty there and the born and bred loyalty, because that player's not good enough for your first team to impact your first team. No Liverpool fans cared about Flanagan when he had to go and the club got rid of him. We only care when it's a good player and it hurts us. And I understand that logic. So I would just rather more honesty. I'm pissed off that we're losing the best X, Y, and Z in the world, rather than you're local, you shouldn't be doing this. Because your club every year, the same as all of our clubs, kick out hundreds of local kids every year, and none of you give a fuck about that loyalty. Let's just be honest about what it is. None of us care about loyalty when a player fucks over his current club to join us. None of us care. We're like, yeah, look who we're getting, boy. But we care when it happens to us, but only if it's a player we rate. So let's be honest. Liverpool fans are angry because they're losing a phenomenal player that they know is going to be very, very hard to replace. How they're projecting that is, no, you must be loyal. This club is different. Yeah, well, if your club's different, then keep all the young kids that aren't good enough for your club if it's about loyalty and local ties and being from the same streets. But you can't and you don't, because that isn't good for your club. Trent has done everything at your club, won everything, the most successful academy player in the Premier League era. He wants to try something different. Until I see actual proof that he strung them along and lied to them to get out for free, until I see proof, I'm not going to say he's done them dirty. If it turns out they offered him deals, he said, I don't want to stay, and they kept on offering him deals and didn't sell him, I can't blame Trent. He's been honest. I need to see proof personally. Terry, you're also a hypocrite as well. Football fans are hypocrite. Listen, I don't deny that I speak emotionally about Manchester United. I can keep a lot calmer in an Arsenal debate, a Liverpool debate, than I can a Manchester United one, because I'm not emotional. Absolutely right. I'm not saying I'm not. All I'm saying on this particular subject is I don't do the loyalty bullshit anymore, because we as football fans are the most least loyal motherfuckers in the world when something doesn't benefit us anymore. It's not about loyalty and local ties and loving someone. It's, I'll quote the famous Eddie Murphy, what have you done for me lately? It comes down to what have you done for me lately? And if you ain't doing shit, people want to move you on, no matter where you're from, no matter where you're born. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. A few transfer stories before the end. Gittens, Gittens linked to Arsenal today. Thoughts on that, Potsy?
So I haven't seen enough of Nico Williams and JB Gittens week in, week out to see who is the better player of the two, right? But I will say that I've heard very good things about Jamie Gittens. Nico Williams, I'm not a massive fan of, and I've started to watch him more as we become linked more with him. I thought he was absolutely abysmal against you boys. I thought it was actually quite embarrassing how bad he was. And he's not had a good season from what I can work out. Now, if you go by goals and assists, which I don't always like, if I'm honest with you, Martinelli's had a better season than the pair of them. If I'm honest, and Martinelli's not been good enough. So you look at what Martinelli's done. He scored 7 goals and got 4 assists. Nico Williams scored 5 goals and got 5 assists. And Jamie Gittens has scored 8 goals and only got 3 assists. So there's kind of a lot of people talking about this. I hear good things, Tel. I don't know if you guys have seen him enough. I don't know if you think he'll fit into Arsenal. But I hear good things.
Yeah, I hear good things. I haven't seen him enough. Go on, KJ.
But I've seen good things and hear good things about him, and obviously it's another English talent coming out of Germany, and that's always a promising thing because they do well out there. My only concern is Arsenal are trying to push for the league. Arsenal are trying to push over the line for the Champions League and all these big competitions and become a solid force in the league, right? Why are you going for another 21-year-old who's growing? Surely right now you need to prioritize the proven guys to get you over the line. You've already got Martinelli on the wing, who's proven to be a good squad player, in my opinion. He ain't going to be the guy to get over you to get you guys over the line. You've already got a Wash Trossard on that wing as well. So why are you going to get a guy in Gittens who's talented and he could be really good to then fill this spot as a first?
Well, I agree with you, KJ. I agree with that point, right? And I've said that I don't want any project players.
Yeah.
I don't know what other left winger we get then, bruv, because they're all like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So Ademola Lookman would be a good shout for me. Yeah. I like Lookman a lot. I think he's a good player. I don't think Cunha's a left winger like some people say. I think he's a 10. Mitoma, he's good. He's Premier League proven. But
could you do a Mbeumo? Maybe convert him to
Mbeumo. I mean, he's more of a right-sided player, but I like him a lot. I do. Maybe you could do a job on the left. I quite like the look of Igor Paxao over at Feyenoord. I quite like the look of him. 14 goals, 13 assists. but it is the Dutch league, and we've seen disasters come from there, and we've also seen unbelievable players come from there, like Ruud van Nistelrooy, R9, and Arjen Robben, right? So you don't quite know Van Persie, etc. So you don't quite know what you're going to get there. I like Barcola over at PSG. Is he going to get game over Doué? I don't know. I quite like him. Rodrigo, I mean, everybody wants Rodrigo. He does play right side, but I do like him a lot. So yeah, they're the sort of players I'd love to get if money was like. I like Alex Baena. I think he's more of a 10, but he can play at the left over at Villarreal. But I don't know, man. I don't know what left wingers are out there. If you look, what's mad, right? I did this on a show the other day. Left wing, everyone wants Arsenal to get a left winger. And we're not the only club that wants a left winger. I think Chelsea want one as well. If you look at the kind of value of left wingers, Vinicius Jr. is the obvious one who's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Kvaratskhelia was the one that I wanted in January. That was my number one, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe that anybody had let him go to PSG. Maybe it was already agreed, but for at least someone to go in for him would have been obvious for me. Luis Diaz is the next most valued player at left wing. There is a serious shortage of left wingers in world football. There must be. If Luis Diaz, and I'm not saying he's rubbish by any means, he just won the league, but if he is the next best after Vinny Jr. in terms of value, what the hell is going on here? Like,
there's one player that hasn't been mentioned yet, which is Premier League proven and is ready to leave his club.
Kudus.
No. Marcus Rashford actually would not be a bad shout, my brother. If we just talk about Premier League left wings.
Is that because you're a Man United fan? You want him gone?
Listen, the last thing I want to do is see Rashford at that door. Like, I love Rashford, but it has to happen. So I don't hate. To be fair, I would actually hate him going to you guys because he'll actually cook, in my opinion.
Yeah, no,
Really?
he is certainly an option for Arsenal, and some stories have come out about that. Gittens, again, I've seen bits and pieces. I've watched a few of his games. Talented, he's good. He's a good, solid player. I think with transfers, though, you always have to live in this world. Depends on who else you buy as to whether or not it's looked at as a good bit of business. If you get Gyökeres, if you get Zubimendi, if you got Mbeumo, and then Gittens as part of that, you can see it's part for the future, part for now. If, for instance, you buy a young striker, a very young midfielder, and Gittens, you're looking at it as like, none of these guys look ready-made, ready to go right now in the Premier League as an example. But I don't think it's a particularly bad link. Mbeumo, those linked with Man United today. It does read, KJ, more like if we don't get Cunha, then both. I'm not going to lie. Today, I don't feel good. Today, I don't feel Qatari. Today, I feel greedy. And I would like both of these players at the club because I just look at our lack of goals, lack of technical ability, but our lack of power and pace. He's a player that just seems to, at 25 years of age, just fits for me that mold perfectly.
I think he'll go Newcastle, though. But yeah,
great point.
I do think he'll probably go Newcastle because I think they've got that right hand side like open for him, and he literally just takes them to again the next level of challenging for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues a lot easier than he would without him. If Man United sign him though, it has to be with, because the comment the article I saw was from the Telegraph, and it says the Man United want Mbeumo as well as Matheus Cunha.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it. Sometimes when it's interpretation. I read that as he's on the list as well as opposed to trying to sign both. Yeah. But you could be right. Yeah. I agree. First of all, I think Newcastle are the front runners for him. There's no doubt. But I would love him because he can play 10, he can play wide, which is exactly those roles. Yes, we've got Ahmad, who also plays in those positions. But the idea of if the kind of players playing in our 10s next year, because Bruno's also going to play midfield, were Mbeumo, Ahmad, Cunha, Bruno. If they're the four that fit those roles, I look at that, and you're talking about four players who have the capability of scoring in the league between 10 and 20 goals each. It changes everything for us. I really like it, but I do agree. I think he goes Newcastle on that right-hand side. So, my message to Man United fans today was great link. Love it. I love the profile of player we're looking at age-wise, but I think it's Newcastle bound, especially if they make it into the Champions League. And the scary fact is that you've got Harvey Barnes or Gordon on one side, Isak if he stays through the middle, and then Mbeumo on the other. That suddenly becomes an even more dangerous Newcastle team.
True, but call me deluded. I think we can do it. I think we can do it. I think
with Champions League, I assume you mean here.
Yes, with Champions League and with a potential sale of a Garnacho per se, like something like that.
It would need that to happen. It would. The other link that's had a bit of stick, a lot of City fans are not happy with this, Potsy, is Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White to City, a lot of them basically saying he ain't good enough. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one, if I'm honest with you either. I think he's a really good player. But I've also seen some really good players go to Manchester City and it not work out, to be fair, like Calvin Phillips and Jack Rodwell. So I'm not putting him in the same bracket as that. I think Morgan Gibbs-White's got unbelievable talent. I do think he's an attacking 8. And I think that if he plays in the attacking 8 and then they get Florian Wirtz in the 10, I think he could be really good for him. But I think there's a big question mark over it. I think it's a hell of a lot of money being reported. I think 75 million, they'll be laughing. Forest, they'll be like, yep, we'll take that, like they did for Brennan Johnson for 50 million. So I think for me, there's pros and cons here. I think he's had a good season. I don't think his shooting's the best though, if I'm honest. I think his shooting needs to be improved on if he goes to City, because they won't have that. I was speaking to Wolfie and he was questioning that as well, saying I'll take 70 million for him. Absolutely. He's not that good. Good player. Is he a great player? I think there's better. I think Manchester City could look at a Morgan Rogers over a Morgan Gibbs-White. Maybe they need to go for the other Morgan. I prefer Rogers. But look, he's not a bad player. It wouldn't be a shocking signing.
I don't think it helps Man City's balance in the midfield, personally. If you're getting Wirtz and Morgan Gibbs-White, I think they've got a lot of Asian players in that position. And the balance is off. I think they need to look at more of the central midfielder and then get on top of that a Wirtz or a Gibbs-White, because you got Marmoush, who's that, again, 10 versatile forward, shadow striker kind of player. You're going to have Haaland up front. You've got all your wingers that you've got. Adding Gibbs-White to Marmoush and Savio and Doku and Haaland, I don't know. I just don't think the balance will be there for what they need in the next season. I know Rodri will be back, but
it's fair.
It's the best thing.
Zane here says, I don't understand why people are shocked with Liverpool fans' reaction when Grealish left Villa and Villa got 100 million. Villa fans still booed and hate him. On the other hand, Trent is leaving for a free. No one's expecting Liverpool fans to be happy and to sort of clap him off into the sunset. And a little bit of booing and a little bit of sort of pantomime gestures is fair, but it's the level of venom. And again, if, for instance, Jack Grealish kept on saying to Villa, I'm not going to sign a new deal. I'm not going to sign a new deal. I love you guys, but I'm not signing a new deal. Then that's fair enough. Listen, I just think it's the level of venom. I think there's a point where
I agree with that. I agree.
Unless Trent has committed a massive criminal offense, some of the things and the pejoratives being used towards him, I think are over the top.
I think if this guy would have been phenomenal for 1 year and gone, yeah, I'm off, I can understand why people have got their venom. They're like, what? He just started with us. This guy's completed football. He's now going to enjoy Real Madrid. And unpopular opinion, people might not agree with this. This is not, I'm saying this, it will happen. I think there's a high chance he isn't as successful over there as people are making out. And I'll tell you quickly why. Because when you do defend like he does, you have a Liverpool fan base that goes, yeah, well, he's one of us. He's a Scouser. There is no protection over there, mate. You are thrown to the wolves. That fan base are horrible, mate. Trust me.
They were cooking them down.
They will cook you day one.
Yeah, man.
They will. Look, I want to thank everyone who's tuned in this morning. Enjoy your bank holiday Monday on VE Day as well. A very important day here in the United Kingdom. This is going to redirect you to Footy Judge Mo's channel, so go and please support him over there. Potsy, I'll see you tomorrow on Straight Facts as we build up for a Champions League week. KJ, always a pleasure, mate. To all of our super chatters, you're amazing. You blow my mind every single day and every single week. Thank you. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.